My ex-husband just admitted he still loves me, and I have no idea what to do about it. This is so surreal. I'm living in a fantasy I've had 1,000,001 times, and I don't even know if I want it anymore. This is a long story that no one will read, and I don't blame you, but typing it out might help me understand how I'm feeling here. We got married young, 19 and 22, with basically a shotgun wedding. Carried for 8 months just for it to end in a stillbirth, and he was there for me, and he cared. And it felt like we fell in love after we got married, and things were good. He wasn't controlling, he believed in me, motivated me to do more and more. Go to school, get a degree, become a nurse, all that. He even paid for a good chunk of it himself, like most of it when he wasn't even making good money yet. The bedroom took some time to really figure out, but once it was mastered, it was mastered. He never tried to get me to have a kid again either. He was perfect, and he grew into being perfect, which just made me love him more. What we had felt so loving and good, and like, wow, I really just stumbled my way into this from a casual friends with benefits to an amazing life and husband. And it stayed like that for a good long time. Then I hit 30, and things started to change. It was little things, little comments he'd make about how young we were when we met, how we went straight into making the marriage work, and school and apprenticeships, how we never really got to be young, even though I think 30 is pretty damn young. And he started to go out with his friends more, but not like before. Before they would come over and play video games or barbecue or something and chill out, but then he started going out, and he just started having more fun without me, I guess. And then it got worse. He sat me down and brought up the topic of an open marriage, more freedom for exploration, and everything he couldn't do before me, basically. And I said no. He said he wasn't sure he wanted to continue with what we had, and it all crumbled from there. He just decided he didn't want to be married anymore. To be clear, he divorced me. He didn't cheat on me, but it was motivated by the fact that he wanted to, his words. It was a bad divorce, but honestly, only emotionally. I felt blindsided and horrible and, begged for him to stay. Even said I would do the open marriage after all, which he declined. He said it wouldn't be real if I didn't want it. And thank God he did that, because it's true. But he was a good person through the whole thing. He just was. He gave me our house that I paid a fraction for because he wanted to make it up to me for him wasting my youth or something. Youth became such a big talking point, man. I don't know. He offered alimony, which I should have taken him up on, but I didn't because I felt bad, and I didn't actually need it. But the point is, he divorced me, blamed me for nothing, and was kind. I couldn't even hate him. He wanted to stay friends. I didn't because I was still in love with him, so we landed on friendly. No blocking, follow each other on social media, no bad words to either side of the family, but we don't talk, except the twice yearly Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas texts. The divorce was final in January of 2019, and I thought that was that. I didn't date through 2019 and 2020, I couldn't for obvious reasons. Same for 2021, just focusing on not frickin' dying. But I did meet someone in 2022, and we've been dating for almost 2 years in February. It's nice, easy. He's divorced too. Neither of us want to get married again, and it just works. We were even talking about moving in together eventually. And then X calls. From his mum's phone, no less. I had stayed close to her. Not super, but like a phone call twice a month and sending actual gifts for the holidays. So I picked up with the usual, "Hi Judy, how are you?" And it was him. We hadn't talked in nearly 5 years, and then bam, there you go. Ex-husband suddenly is desperate to see me. He said that we really needed to talk, and asked if he could come by. He could even bring his mum if I was uncomfortable with just him, and I said yes, but to bring his mum. Now at this point, full on I thought one of them was dying. Mostly thought it was him and that he wanted to make amends or something, because nothing else would explain the suddenness. He came over to the house with his mum, as promised, but he looked fine. They both did, which made me so much more confused. But I let them in and waited for him to say something. It was the most awkward 45 seconds of my life, until his mum elbowed him and said, "I'm not doing this for another year. Tell her, I'll be in the other room." Which, am I crazy, or again, does that make it sound like he's dying? And she left for the kitchen and left us in the hall, and he just started word vomiting. I don't know what else to call it. Like, I'll type out what he said coherently, but I want to make it clear it did not come out this clean. Being young and dumb didn't matter when I was with him. He thought he'd be happy to have full freedom to do whatever he wanted, and he was for a while. He travelled, met people, dated, but it always felt wrong, and he knew he regretted the divorce years ago, but didn't want to bother me after he broke everything apart, for frickin' nothing, apparently. He said his friends were in his ear, always talking about marriage, and how it slowed them down, and he listened, despite the fact that I never tried to stop him from doing what he wanted, and he still loved me, and he wanted me back, and he never really stopped, and he would talk about it year after year after year to his family, and his mum told him what I told her, about the idea of moving in with a boyfriend, and it triggered the hell out of him, and that's how he ended up on my doorstep. I felt like I was in a damn movie, except the music didn't swell, and I didn't have like the magical moment of the love of my life and I getting back together. It all worked out. I just felt confused and angry, and I told him that this was all too much to drop on me out of nowhere and to leave, but I'd call him. So now I'm here, still confused, still angry, but now have to figure out how to tell my boyfriend about this. I'll not be leaving him in the dark, but what the hell, man? If you loved me so damn much, why did you leave? Why were you so insistent that you had to be with other people? You know I'm seeing someone. You could have tried this for the years I was single. Why now? Why? I feel so suspicious and weird, and I don't know if I believe him. But at the same time, I still have never loved someone the way I loved him. Is it that insane to think that what we had did matter to him? Is that delusional? Or did he just have a midlife crisis and regrets it? I don't frickin' know. I just don't. Wow, yeah, I mean, it's incredibly selfish on his part to come forward at this point in time. Sounds to me like he heard that she had a boyfriend and she was getting pretty serious with him, and then he got jealous and started thinking what was lost. Like, it just sounds like a comfortability and ego thing to me. Let's look at the comments. Wow, I'm so sorry for everything you've been through and are still going through with this. I'm going to echo what the other commenters said. This is all on your time. However, 2 things I will mention. 1. If you're having thoughts of leaving your current relationship for your ex, express them to your boyfriend now. Being through such an intense heartbreak yourself, you know what it's like, and I don't know that it even has to be said to not string him along if he's going to be your second choice. 2. A few people have mentioned your ex only wants you because he can't have you. That absolutely could be true, but it could also be that he's truly been doubtful a long time and just didn't know how to and when to admit it. My guess is his mother finally came down on him that this is his final chance, and he needed to just get the courage and do it. Sometimes people have to grow up separately to grow up at all. That does not make it okay, but may offer some perspective. In the end, this is about you, and only you. Best of luck. I know this is not the point at all, but the mum being like, you have to tell her, and walking into the other room is so funny, I'm gonna lose my mind. Also, you're absolutely right. The way this was all presented makes it sound like he was dying. Anyways, you don't owe him anything, to be honest. He might leave again after you get back together if he starts to feel bored the way he did when he left the first time. The relationship you two had previously might be over for good, and if you start again now, the relationship is going to be different, and it likely won't be better. It likely won't even be good. I don't know. Godspeed, girl. Jesus Christ. There was a guy I was talking to for about 2 years. He expected me to act like we were dating and would get angry if I spoke to other guys or showed interest in other guys, even though he has never asked me to be his girlfriend. Our entire situationship was me sending nudes to him and trying to talk to him all day and barely getting responses. The responses I did get were impersonal and short, like it would be 3 to 4 hours between every response, and his answer for not asking me to be his girlfriend? I just want to take the time to get to know you. Question mark? And after 2 years you still don't know me well enough to know if you want to be with me? Anyway, I ended things with him and then got with my current fiancée about 10 months later. My ex-situationship pops up now and again and talks to me, but now all of a sudden he's proclaiming his love and acting like a sad lovesick puppy, saying really romantic things that would have made an 18-year-old me swoon and kick my feet. He's only saying it now that I'm engaged and living with my fiancée, and I'm sure as hell not 18 anymore. They only want you when they know they can't have you. Let him go, and let him stay gone. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. I mean, it could be wrong still, but that's just my instinct. Let's go to an update. Well, the height of the dramatics are over. I think it went as well as it could have, but I told my boyfriend everything that happened. He wasn't happy, but he wasn't mad at me or anything. I think it helped that the ex's mum had been there and we weren't just alone hanging out. But we talked. A lot. A lot. Spoiler, we are not breaking up over this. And you know what? I love my boyfriend. And maybe it's not as intense as what I had with my ex-husband, but that took years to get to. It wasn't overnight either. I think it also helped that my boyfriend is divorced too, and when I asked what he would do in my shoes, he had a lot to say. So we both agreed I'm going to see and talk to X about it. He said that if it was him, he'd want to tell his ex face to face that it was over. So I texted the ex, and to be clear, I wasn't vague about what was going to happen with him. The direct text, which my boyfriend saw, read, "Hey, obviously we need to talk about everything that happened the other day, but I want to be clear that we won't be getting back together no matter how the conversation goes. Knowing that, do you still want to see me?" And he did. So he set up a time and place, public. And again, boyfriend is aware of all of this and is fine with it, but he did want to come with me. Not like inside where we were meeting, but drove me over and waited in the car. And I know that could sound weird or bad, but I feel like it makes sense. He's being so calm and collected about this whole thing. I think he just wants to stay in the loop, so not a red flag to me. Anyway, I went and we met up at a park, with boyfriend having direct eye line to the bench we were on, and we talked. It was a lot. Of course, it was a lot. I'd always have love for him, but the window to that life closed years ago. He cried, apologized for crying, and it hurt a lot to see, and I felt so frickin' bad. I don't want to sound awful or like I don't take my relationship seriously, but for a second there, I just wanted to kiss him and tell him everything would be okay. But I didn't because that would be dumb as hell, and it's time to move on. But the talk was hard, and I'm a little worried he's hanging on to some hope because it ended on a weird note. He asked if things would be different if I was single, which, obviously, I feel like he thought that question made some kind of point that I'm not seeing. I told him the truth, that yeah, it would be, that my boyfriend was the top reason why I wasn't going to be exploring this. He asked what could happen if we ever broke up, and I said that wasn't really a healthy road to go down, but I swear that made him perk up a little. I don't know, maybe he took it wrong. Maybe I'm reading into it wrong. But I don't think I have to worry about him pining away for me considering the circumstance of why we weren't together. I gave him a hug before leaving, and that was that. It's still over. Obviously, I told my boyfriend everything, even the weirdness at the end, which he didn't love, but he was fine with me keeping him unblocked, but did say he wanted to be told if he ever reached out again, which is completely fine by me. Like the code to my phone is open, he's welcome in any time, and I think that helped a lot. Like, I don't know y'all, he was so damn mature about the whole thing. It was really eye-opening to how much I appreciate what we have. He's very different from my ex, more reserved and quiet, but sweet, and he can still communicate. He just chooses his words and actions very carefully, and that's the kind of thing I need. Stability. I deserve that. I'm still a little worried about my ex though, considering everything I learned and how it ended. But I did my part. I'm not going to cut either of them off, yet, but they really are good people. There is only so much I can write in a Reddit story, but I don't hate him for a reason, even though he emotionally effed me over, bad. And especially his mum. She's a frickin' angel. And I think after this, she won't bring it up again. And if he starts popping up or something from her end, then I'll do the hard work to cut her off. But that's it. It wasn't the big fairy tale ending I dreamed of, but the nice, quiet life I made for myself is still intact. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, sensible outcome there for OP, I think. But yeah, it sounds like that OP would have been willing to explore the relationship with her ex again if she was single. I bet the ex is kicking himself that he didn't actually ask her, like, when she was single all those years. Oh well, he's gonna have to live with that regret now, but that's life. Okay, give me your thoughts about that one, and we'll move on to the next story. Okay, this next one's from Am I the A-hole? It was written by user Major Artist, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not offering to pay for my husband and his kids, leading him to spending all his savings? For a while now, my husband, John, has been getting more and more angry over little things and generally moody and distant. I had finally had enough and approached him about separation. This conversation led to a big blowout and him revealing the state of his finances. My husband and I have always kept our finances separate. Also, although we call each other husband and wife and had a wedding, we are not actually legally married. This was primarily for inheritance purposes because we each have older children from previous relationships. Anyway, John revealed that he had basically no savings left, that all the money he had saved for retirement and for his kids' schooling was gone. Furthermore, he said it was all my fault since he used all his savings up to try and keep up with my lifestyle. There was never anything crazy in terms of bills or anything like that, and we always split it all equally. The house we live in I own outright as well, so there wasn't a mortgage payment. However, I've always liked to travel a lot on fairly extravagant vacations. I would invite John or John and his children to join on trips, but never made them feel like they had to come. That said, he was expected to pay for himself and for his kids. Except for recently, he accepted every invitation. I would also give my kids things he considered extravagant, but what I considered normal, so he felt like he had to give similar things to his own kids. John said with all the spending to keep up, his savings dwindled very fast. I expressed that I couldn't understand how or why he would spend all he had when he knew he couldn't afford it. He said it was like keeping up with the Joneses, only worse, because it was at home, so he couldn't block it out. John thinks since I knew his job, I should have a basic understanding of his finances, and realizes this wasn't a lifestyle he could maintain, that the kind thing would have been to offer to pay for the trips and other things, instead of dangle them in front of him and his kids' faces. Looking back, I probably could have realized that his spending didn't make sense for his salary, but I wasn't thinking about it. I don't think it was my responsibility to keep his finances in mind here. We had agreed from the beginning to keep our finances separate, so to me, that means paying for things separately. Yeah, I don't know, given their situation, it's ultimately not her responsibility, right? Let's go to the comments. Opie answers some questions. Why not get married? You know you can make children beneficiaries in wills, right? Opie says, here spouses are included in inheritance even if they're omitted from wills, and I plan on leaving everything to my kids. Ages? I'm 44, he's 53, we don't have any children together. So you didn't discuss trips you could afford together? We did discuss the trips and I asked for input about where to stay and what we would do, but he never gave any or had any suggestions. I always assumed he just didn't like planning things. I would have likely still gone on the trips if he didn't want to. So if he said no, would you still go on the trip on your own? I would have still likely gone on the trip. That said, I would have been open to less expensive trips had he brought it up. Except for the past 2 trips he never declined. I didn't go alone though. I went on one with some friends and the other with my daughter. One commenter says, everyone sucks here. John should have ended your marriage way earlier. He can't keep with your lifestyle, and it would be horrible and very unfair to subject his children in a life where half of the family goes on fancy vacations regularly and the others stay home. He should have been honest way earlier before his savings drained and ended the marriage. You should have more awareness of your partner's struggles. How do you share life with someone and don't realize these things? Opie replies, he paid for things without any hint that he was struggling. I assume his attitude change was when things started to get really bad, and I did ask what was wrong, but he would just say things were fine, or say he was upset about some little thing, like the dishes not being put away. Before you were together, how often were you taking trips with your kids? I've always done about the same amount of trips every year, usually 2 with my kids. His kids mostly live with their mum, and mine will split time between me and their dad pretty equally. My eldest is in college now though. Another commenter says, I have a burning question. Did you ever ask him why he was acting that way before you decided it was time for separation? Because from the outside you come off as the female stereotype that men don't have emotions, so there's no need to check. Opie replies, I did. He would always say it was fine, or I would ask what was wrong and he would get mad about the dishes not being put away, or some other little thing. If you enjoy having him with you, maybe you could pay for him to go. If things were better, I might consider it, but at this point, I'm really not enjoying being around him anymore. I'm going to use this break to take some time to reevaluate things. It sounds like you don't love him at all. Why were you with him? Were you really together or just roommates with benefits? Why wouldn't you leave him anything in the will? How do you split daily life? With how things are now, it's hard to talk in present tense. I loved him. For me, it just feels like it would be wrong for my money and assets to go to anyone other than my kids. For him, well, I don't really need any inheritance, so it just makes the most sense for it to have gone to his children. For the restaurants, we've always just taken turns paying. Yeah, this is a really strange dynamic, and it sounds like Opie's kind of already checked out of the relationship anyway. The more I hear about it, the more sorry I kind of feel for the husband here. Let's go to the update. After reading all the comments on my first post, I realised I needed more time to think about things. I also thought with the situation how it was, it would be best that we spend the holidays apart to avoid controversy. He wasn't a fan of the idea, but I eventually got him to agree to go. Last week, things settled down, so we met up to have a more detailed discussion about the state of his finances. A few more things were revealed. I found out that he'd lost his job earlier this year and didn't tell me. He got a new job in October, but he went over 4 months without one while pretending he still had one. During that time, he only got a small amount of money from unemployment, so he started putting everything on his credit cards. His new job doesn't pay as much as his old one, so he hasn't been able to pay more than the minimum towards his debts, which are now substantial. I feel like if he'd just brought up all these issues earlier, this could have been avoided, or we could have worked something out. Now I really just feel like I can't trust him. I can't trust him with money, and I can't trust him not to hide things from me. I just can't see going back and trying to make things work with him at this point. Since he doesn't have a place to take all their things, I've agreed to store their stuff in my garage until he gets more settled, which means I won't be able to make as clean of a break as I would like to right now, but for the most part, it's over. Yeah, I think there was some pretty bad underlying issues with communication in this relationship from the first place. I mean, the fact that they were, by all intents and purposes, husband and wife, and she was completely oblivious to his situation, and he was completely hesitant to tell her that, he lost his job and he had these financial problems, just kind of tells me that this situation is a product of a lot of other problems. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Let me know down below. My parents ruined my wedding, and I don't think I can get over it. My now husband and I got married on Halloween, and I'm not okay with how our day went. We didn't want anything big, just close friends and family, at the courthouse, dressed in costumes. There was supposed to be 12 adults and 1 child that was on our guest list. Let's start off with the night before. My husband got sick and he took the whole day to recover to be well. The plan was get my nails done, have my mum French braid my hair, then go home, help him feel better, and pack. When I got to my parents' house, my mum informed me that my 2 aunts weren't coming and that she invited my cousin. I didn't want him there, firstly. Second, she told me as my dad was on the way to pick him and my sister up. I love my cousin, but I'm not close with him and he's an alcoholic that everybody enables. My small reception was not dry, and she promised me he wouldn't be a problem. The reception was at my parents' house, so she was busy cleaning. I still needed to comb my hair out, and she wanted to surprise me with decorations. Long story short, we were running low on time as it was 9 p.m, and I needed to head home to sleep since our wedding was early in the morning. She doesn't start my hair until after her and my cousin start drinking and smoking. I'm already annoyed. I make it home at midnight and still have to check on hubby and pack. I go to bed at 3 a.m. and have to be up at 5 a.m, but I woke up 30 minutes late. I drive back to her house to get ready and help her get ready. When I get there, everybody is sleeping because after they put up the decorations, they stayed up drinking and smoking. Already running late and stressing because the veil I made myself wouldn't stay, my cousin starts rushing me. My parents start fighting loudly and I'm already exhausted. We make it to the courthouse, get married, and I got a handful of pictures, but everyone else is in like 30 pictures. I got 1 picture that I liked and only 10 were taken. We get brunch and only my friends are talking to me and my husband. Everyone else isn't even paying attention to us. My mum keeps saying, "I'm a mother-in-law today." My friends had to leave. They let us know in advance, so now it's just my family. My cousin is super drunk, won't stop talking, no one is listening to me, and the only person that keeps checking on me is my husband. Eventually I get overwhelmed and we check into our hotel and take a nap. 2 to 3 hours later we head back to the house to give everyone a second chance, but they are clearly more intoxicated and loud. Cuss words are flying. My husband tries to calm me down by telling me to start playing our wedding playlist that we made ourselves. The entire time my cousin is complaining about the music. He wanted us to play more hardcore rap. Now I wasn't opposed to song requests and even played some songs he requested, but every song that wasn't his, he complained, asked me to turn it off, or asked why I would play this song. Our first dance was to "Can I Have This Dance" from HSM, and he asked me to turn it off. When we were ready to cut the cake, no one came and took pictures. No one was even in the room with us because my cousin was drunk rapping his hot mess bars. My wedding day didn't feel like my day. I had no say in anything. No one paid attention to us, and I have one picture. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but here I am. I'm crying at 4:32 a.m. on Reddit, no sleep, while my husband sleeps peacefully. I couldn't tell him earlier because we had to get intoxicated just to deal with them, and he already doesn't like my dad, so I didn't want him to say anything in that situation. Geez, talk about horror story weddings. God, I think this is one of the worst ones I've ever heard. On to the comments. I'm so sorry this happened to you. It sounds so difficult, and I cannot imagine how hard it must be for you because of your horrible family who are full of themselves. I would suggest you talk to your husband about this, let him know how you feel, and have a good wedding plan once again, but only both because it's not about everyone else. It's the bond between you both. If you want to, you can invite your close friends, have a photographer, take some memorable pictures, buy a cake and cut, have a beautiful ride or picnic or a day out, whatever suits you both the most. I'm so sorry. There is no rule that you can only have one ceremony. Maybe consider having a do-over ceremony later on for just the two of you. Go someplace fun, Vegas, a park, a beach, camping in the woods, etc. Sounds like you're the scapegoat, like me. I decided to start setting boundaries with my family, which makes me even more of a black sheep, but I have more peace within myself now. It might be good to seek therapy. It's a good way to process this kind of trash behaviour and encouragement to advocate for yourself. I'm sorry this happened. Something similar happened at my wedding, and I'm still upset about it. It's been 11 years. But I've taken steps to ensure I will never be in that situation again. Congratulations, dude. I'm sorry it didn't turn out how you dreamed. Yeah, I agree with the comments here. Maybe a do-over ceremony. Maybe just another little gathering with a few of your really close friends. I don't know, I feel like that's something I'd be inclined to do in this situation. Let's go to the update. I posted here about how my parents and cousin ruined my wedding and how I didn't know what to do. So here's the update. After posting here, I tried to get some sleep, but couldn't, and ended up waking my husband. He and I talked, and he told me he felt the same way. I cried all morning until he made me lay down to finally sleep. I maybe got 3 hours of sleep before waking up in incredible pain and feeling nauseous. We checked out of our hotel early and went to the hospital. I had the same sickness he had the day before our wedding. We went back to my parents' house so I could get some real sleep before making the drive home. We did not talk to my parents about it. After talking to our friends, we decided that we would redo the pictures next Wednesday and have a mini party to celebrate. My husband told me to feel my feelings but not to worry about it because he would fix it. I trust that he will. What I hadn't mentioned in my previous post was that this was my first wedding and we were having another one next year for everyone to come to. Which is why it hurt so much to have my mum do that to me. Neither one of us are particularly close with our families, but to not have drama we decided to have a smaller intimate one this year and the bigger, more extravagant one next year. After what happened with this wedding, we both made the decision that my mum would never have the opportunity to do this to me again, and she will have no say-so on the next one. We did eventually talk to my mum about her actions, and it went about as expected. She made herself to be the victim and me out to be the bad guy. She used my aunt's passing as an excuse to invite my cousin. She also told me she asked if he could come, but doesn't see that she gave me no way to say no. She doesn't understand how she ruined our day. "I'm sorry you feel like I ruined your day," was the apology I received. Eventually, I gave up trying to get her to understand how she ruined, and the fact that we weren't mad at her just extremely hurt. I did tell her that there was no way for her to make this up to me, and apparently that was the wrong thing to say. I grey-rocked her until she got off the phone and cried into my husband's chest until he made me laugh. As for going no contact or low contact with my parents, I was already low contact with my dad for things in the past, and I'm currently low contact with my mum, but she doesn't get that. She's called me 20 times today alone and I haven't answered once. I'm working on processing things that happened in childhood, but I can't get over the fact that they're my parents. I know with everything that has happened, not even just my wedding, that I should be no contact with them. For some reason my heart won't let me. Low contact for now. We appreciate the comments you guys left, and he really enjoyed reading that he's doing a good job. I really did pick a good one, and even though our wedding day wasn't what we wanted, I did marry the love of my life. He continues to provide that to me daily, and I've never been happier. Unless something of more significance happens, this will be the only update. Thank you again, and I hope you all enjoyed your Halloween. Yeah, I was going to say, I think the only thing that could make this worse was if the husband wasn't on her side, but glad to see that he is. Anyway, let me know what you think about that one down in the comments. Either way, we'll jump to our next story. Okay, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for making a 21-year-old woman shower for the first time in at least 4 days? Apologies for the format, this is my first Reddit post and also a throwaway. I, 23 female, and my best friend Holly, 21 female, are completely sympathetic to the fact that having a shower may be a sensory issue for some people, and Chloe, 21, claims this includes her. With this being said, she knew she was going away for a week. We had 6 months' notice, on a marine biology field course, sharing a room with 2 other people. We were all friends before this trip. When Chloe is at home, she has a bath once every 10 days and is bathed by her boyfriend. We received absolutely no warning of this, nor did we receive a warning that she would not be planning to shower or brush her teeth for the duration of the trip. Marine biology is quite labour intensive and of course involves standing on the beach and literally in the ocean. This trip also included miles-long walks every day to get to these beaches. Had Chloe had a strip or baby wipe wash every evening, then the smell wouldn't have gotten to this point. But my god, you guys, the smell. It was straight up onions, vinegar and BO. I threw up twice because of it. Actually the worst smell from something living I've ever smelled. At this point, 4 days of walking and climbing rock pools, we could no longer deal with the smell at all. Even our other friend that would walk past the room would gag. I really am not being dramatic. Instead of using antiperspirant and deodorant, she was using Impulse body spray, a perfume, under her arms and on her feet, making the smell a million times worse. And to top all this off, there was an outbreak of bacterial meningitis in our class whilst we were away. It was only at this point that we asked her to shower. We only asked her to shower to reduce the risk of infection, and we did also mention the smell at this point. We all weren't sure about the ins and outs of this illness and how it spread, and wanted to be as clean as possible after seeing our classmates and being within close confines of them all day. We all remember the C word. We were treating it like that. We did ask nicely. We said the room smelt and that if we all have a shower, we didn't know it was a sensory issue at this point, then it would improve the smell and the situation for us all. Holly showered, I showered, then Chloe left the room to go see some of her friends. We were absolutely baffled. The next day we asked less nicely. It was ripe. She walks out of the room and returns 5 minutes later with one of our uni lecturers. She had spoken to the uni lecturer and accused us of bullying her. She has also made an anonymous submission to our university's drama Facebook page which says the following. Edit. I had to remove her post as apparently some dude named Tyler took it upon himself to find out which uni I attend. Creepy. So here's my rewording of it. I've changed none of the context, just the words that were said so they can't be found by people like Tyler. Quote, if you want to go on this trip, don't. I was bullied so much I cried every night and the staff did nothing. I know the 2 girls who did it will see this post, and here is my message to you both. My family and I aren't happy, and we will be taking this matter to the police for bullying, and to the university for non-academic misconduct. We are at university now. You would think people have matured, but apparently not. Bullying is serious. End quote. Now this came as a complete shock. She had not been crying every night, or at least not that we noticed, nor did we give her a reason to cry every night. The only thing we can possibly think of, and we've checked with our other friends, was the mention of the smell and the fact that she needs to shower. It hurts us that this has upset her so much, but our point is, if you know you're going away for a week and you do not plan on showering, or know you have difficulty doing this, wouldn't you warn your roommates? Plan to have a baby wipe wash, which she admitted she's fine to do. If we had known about the awful personal hygiene this 21-year-old girl has, then there is no way we would have agreed to share a room with her. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. I'd like to make it very clear, we did not avoid her. She came to the pub with us by invitation and sat at our table, along with other things we invited her to. Nor did me and Holly do the gagging. This was done by people who were not sharing a room with us. We still wanted to be her friend. The people gagging weren't really friends with her in the first place. We made the attempt to tell her delicately, which was us saying the room stank and that we could all have a shower to mitigate the issue. Other than that, we had no idea what to do. Also, do not worry, Holly and I are home safe in our nice smelling rooms. The first thing we did when we got home was shower. Oh my god, what? She only bathes once every 10 days? Like, sensory issues aside, you gotta be aware of the fact that your condition is gonna make other people around you uncomfortable. And not just uncomfortable, but it's gonna make them feel unsafe as well. I don't even want to imagine the smell. Let's go to the comments. She's gonna go to the police because your group asked her to shower? Boy oh boy, I wish I could be a fly on the wall when that complaint happens. She's gonna get laughed out of the police station, not the a-hole. Her mental health triggers are her responsibility, and if she's gonna be sharing space with others, it's common sense to not smell disgusting. Not the a-hole. Bacterial meningitis is no joke, and personal hygiene is crucial in that aspect. She probably should have gotten her own room if she's that unhygienic in my opinion. Not the a-hole. Trying to make sense of the individual claiming to have a sensory issue, presumably with water if she can't even brush her teeth, yet wanting to take marine biology, which involves water and lots of it, sounds more like a mental health issue and attention seeking. You should have been informed about it beforehand. Now you can countersue her for libel if your names are mentioned to the university, and false police reports for the same reason. Stay away from her. She sounds toxic, and not just for the smell reason. Opie then provides more relevant comments. We didn't even say anything until the outbreak happened, and we only said something then because we were concerned for our health. 2 of our classmates were currently in hospital, and we didn't want to become the 3rd and 4th. One commenter asks, "How the hell does she have a boyfriend?" Opie says, "She says they have sex once a month. Me and Holly joked that it must be after her monthly bath. They're also trying for a baby, I think. How would she go about washing the child? I'm genuinely curious." How have you never noticed this before? We noticed a smell occasionally, but honestly we didn't sit close enough to her. She takes up 2 seats every single class without fail, to notice it was consistent. What did your lecturer say? Well, the lecturer said that her and Chloe had agreed that a strip wash would be the best option for us all. Me and Holly disagreed, as it was past the point a strip wash would suffice. If she had had one every day, then yes, that's okay, but it was day 5 at this point, and it was ripe. It wasn't until I had a panic attack for my health that the lecturer also made her shower. I can't lie, it did look like they, the lecturer, were mouth-breathing, and she was made to shower. When she did finally shower, and we timed it, it was 5.5 minutes, and there was no shower gel missing. Another commenter asks, "Dude, what the F did she tell the police?" Opie says, "She claims she told the police, but there's so many things she lies about we actually can't keep up anymore. I won't go into the ins and outs, but they're awful lies. She tells us daily about her boyfriend's micropenis, so that could be why they're still together. Holly and I both threw up twice each due to the smell on the room." One commenter asks, "Are you seriously asking if you're the jerk here?" Opie says, "I've been through some crap, so you are completely correct in my self-judgment issues. She's making me feel like I'm being a B, to the point I went, F it, Reddit's gonna eat this crap up." I don't use Reddit often, and Am I the A-hole is one of the only places I know. I don't know if my post was better suited to elsewhere. What I really wanted was neurodivergent voices to explain to me what went wrong and what could have happened. I got that, and they all confirmed that this level of hygiene was unacceptable, and they also explained how there could be issues with showering. I was also told of many different alternatives to showering that could have been planned out in advance. Okay, now for an update. Good morning, you ruthless Americans who are spamming my phone all night. I can't say I blame you. So much so, my post got locked. I'm afraid I haven't got much of an update for you yet. Holly's final statement. I'm too old for this crap. At the end of the day, she should have had a shower given she was sharing a room. I'm not disregarding the fact she may or may not have sensory issues. I just wish it was mentioned before we shared a room with her, which is the least of what should have happened. I just want a quiet life. I can't be arsed with all the crap. Message from Chloe last night. If you're going to make a Reddit about me, at least tell the frickin' truth rather than lying. This is going to be taken further now because it's being out of order. My response. Please could you highlight any lies from my throwaway Reddit account with changed names, and Holly and I will review them in the morning. I'm entitled to ask the internet if I'm being a jerk, which they decided I was not. We tried, Chloe, and we asked Reddit to try and see other perspectives. She has read it but not responded. Edit. She blocked me. Still no response. What I'd really like is some advice on what to do next. This girl is threatening my academic career and it's not fair. My class finishes at 3 p.m. We'll be speaking to a lecturer. Opie also says this, replying to a comment. As someone who was bullied for many years, I know what it's like for people to look at you like you're weird. Chloe owns and brings in reborn dolls to uni, and for the first year, Holly and I were the only two people to defend her. Everyone else looked at the girl like she was crazy. This is why we felt we should stay in a room with her, and we hoped it would bring us all closer. Boy, were we wrong. I'm sorry I'm too nice, I guess. I'm trying to work on it. I get told a lot that I don't have a backbone. And another update. We spoke to the lecturer who organised the trip. She has heard nothing from Chloe at all and agrees that everything was blown way out of proportion and that Chloe has no legal ground to stand on. It seems those empty threats were just that, empty. The lecturer told us that Chloe was originally offered a room of her own and she did not take it. Mad is an understatement. She is aware of my Reddit post as well as Chloe's Facebook post. The lead lecturer will be speaking to the lecturer who made Chloe shower, so I don't know how much more information I would be given to update you all. Now for one last mini update Opie gives in the comments. She has taken zero accountability and has since blocked Holly and I on everything. She was always like that, but never to that level. She also hasn't returned to classes since. The test on the fieldwork is next week, so wish me luck. Okay guys, and that's all she wrote for that one. God, what a bizarre situation, and a bizarre person. Like, geez, people are weird sometimes, aren't they? Have you guys ever had to stay in a room with someone like that? I hope not. My fiancé made me get plastic surgery just to get engaged. Now I want to call off the wedding. I want to clarify that no, this is not a fake post. This is my first ever Reddit post. I felt compelled to get some outside perspective because I don't confide in anyone in my personal life. No one knows I got this surgery. I'm glad I did post to this and I really appreciate everyone's feedback. I know what I need to do, but it's not easy. I'll update in a few weeks. I, 26 female, have been engaged to my fiancé, 37 male, for 6 months now, and we're getting married next spring. Our relationship has not been easy, and we dated for 2 years before getting engaged, and he broke up with me once in between for 5 months. Right now, I am so conflicted. There was a time I was so eager to be engaged to him, and now I'm lost. First off, I kind of had to give an ultimatum to get engaged, to which he responded he has not proposed all this time because of something in my looks that he's not attracted to. He asked me to get a specific plastic surgery to correct to this issue, and that he would pay for it, and only then he's willing to get engaged. So I went ahead and got the surgery. Clown emoji. Anyways, we get engaged, and I can still tell that he's not that attracted to me because the surgery didn't really make a big difference. It doesn't compliment me, doesn't really touch me or initiate things with me. He doesn't complain or bash my looks, but he doesn't rave about it either. But this isn't the worst of it. I'm currently in grad school and he works full-time and makes over $500k a year. He's paying for the wedding and has rubbed it in my face on 2 occasions how I contribute nothing, and that I basically never have the right to complain about anything ever because he works so hard to pay for things. I complained once that I feel we don't spend enough quality time. I just don't know if I'm making a huge mistake getting married to him. I don't want to be miserable. I'm so anxious. I don't feel like he loves me. He pushes me away when he's having a bad day and doesn't talk to me. I just feel kind of neglected in the relationship, but I also don't want to be a victim and consider maybe he's right about some things. Breaking an engagement off is so embarrassing, and this would be his second broken engagement, and I don't want to do that to him. I just feel really lost. How do I go about this? On to the comments. Quote, I don't know if I'm making a huge mistake. Girl, you should have left as soon as he put a condition of plastic surgery on your engagement. This man does not love you. You need to leave and marry someone who does. Would you rather be embarrassed for a few months or be miserable with this a-hole for years? Is this how you want your marriage to be? Because it's not going to get better after the wedding. You deserve to be with someone who loves you. Him having 2 broken engagements would be a reflection on him, not you. You already know what you need to do. It's time to do it. Okay, now Opie makes an edit. Thank you for all the responses, even the mean ones that I needed to hear. The surgery was liposuction of my legs from thighs to ankles. I've always carried weight in my lower body. He says financially successful men don't like thick women, and goes on to list all the successful men he knows and uses their women as reference. I figured he was right about this and got the surgery, and I'm still trying to lose weight because the lipo didn't make a huge difference. Also, to those that ask what good qualities he has, I initially thought he was very kind, helps the poor, and goes on medical mission trips. He's a doctor. He is funny, and we actually get along really well when things are good. And I love his parents so much, and I really feel for them. They're older and want grandkids, and want to see their son married. I don't think they realise how mean he can be. I'm not going to pretend his money is not appealing. I didn't grow up with a lot of money and watched my parents struggle as immigrants. I also wanted to make sure my kids will grow up in a financially stable environment. It's not really gold digging because I'm not a materialistic person. I don't care for expensive things, I just don't want to struggle like my parents did. To those who think I can get a prenup or divorce, our culture and community is very strict. I probably should have mentioned we're Middle Eastern, not Muslims. We don't get divorced, it's not an option in our church. He ended his first engagement, not her. He said she became too obsessed with the wedding planning and felt like a different personality of her had come out after she secured the ring. Gee, yeah, it sounds like this guy's got like some sort of fantasy in his head about what successful men are like, and also what their wives are like, and now he's trying to project that fantasy onto OP at her expense. Let's go to the update. Hello everyone, I did not think I'd post the update so soon, but here it is. We broke up today. 48 hours after my initial post and 1,000+ people begging me not to get married, the wedding is off. This is how it went. He picked me up because we had our engagement photo shoot today. He has been depressed for over a month now over a real estate lawsuit that he started. He's already been putting me on the back burner because of this lawsuit and gives me zero attention, acts like I'm an added stressor in his life, so I'm already fed up with the mopey attitude. He starts going off about how he's not in the mood to take pics today and that it's hard for him to smile, how drained and unhappy he feels over the house. I literally exploded. With everything that's happened, I couldn't take it anymore. I told him I've never met such a literal man-child in my life. For him to break down over a lawsuit he started, he's not fit to ever be the man, the sole provider of a family, to face real troubles of life. He's never had any real issues in his life. He is a literal man-child. I told him he never acknowledged how insane it is that I went and got surgery just for him to find me more attractive. He never recognised the care and sacrifices I've made for him. I did take ownership for letting this relationship drag out as far as an engagement, after he showed me time after time how unfit he is to be a life partner. It is my fault. I ignored the red flags and I kept having a hope he would change one day. Maybe if I brought him a child, he would start to appreciate me more. Maybe seeing me as a mother, he would start to love me. I'm so glad it didn't last long enough to find out. We didn't make it to the shoot, obviously. He ended up driving me back home. Sadly, we wasted the poor photographer's time. His reaction throughout all of this was very minimal. So cold he would look down and look sad, but it looked like he was pretending. He said he was sorry and he thought I deserved better than him. He said his emotional battery had run out. This was the end of it. I gave him the ring back and told him we're never speaking again. I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. I read every single one. I can't express how much it helped me finally come to this decision today. You guys actually saved my life. I'm not even sad. I'm so relieved. I feel lighter. Thank you all so much. Okay folks, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, a bit unfortunate it had to come to that point, but I think we can all agree that it was probably the right decision in the end. Give me your thoughts down below about that one. Either way, let's go to our next story. Okay, this next one was written on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Tortuga Tramposa, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my family for getting me a birthday cake I don't want for the 15th year in a row? Unfortunately, I, 18 female, was born a day after my cousin, 20 female. Ever since I was little, my needs for my birthday were always outshined by hers. We always did family events to celebrate our birthdays, since we're the oldest kids in our family, so we just kind of shared a birthday. We had the same cake. My family either never wrote my name on it, or would messily scribble it on at the last minute. Party decorations and games catered to her taste, and mostly all gifts would be for her. I just usually ended up getting a $10 gift card for Walmart or something, while she always got dolls, games for her Nintendo DS, and even a puppy one time. I always felt like that I didn't matter for my birthday. Even my quinceañera fell flat, since my family went all out making my cousin feel like the most special girl in the world, but my cousin was always nice to me, and she would give me some of her gifts just to put a smile on my face. This year was my 18th birthday, and all my relatives were gathered in one place to celebrate me and my cousin's birthdays. My mother had promised me my own separate cake, and that it'll be an Oreo ice cream cake, my favourite cake, so I was excited. When my abuela gathered the family together to blow out the candles and sing happy birthday, my cousin and I got in our respective spots. They started singing while my mother brought a cake to the table and placed it in front of my cousin. It was a strawberry cheesecake. After we got done singing, my cousin blew out her candles and everybody clapped. My aunt started to cut the cake, and I would audibly ask about my cake. My entire family looks confused, and they all say, "This cake is for the both of you." My cousin spoke up saying, "But it only has my name on it." I looked to my mum, who had a "what?" expression on her face. I asked about the cake, and she told me, "You don't need the extra sugar." At that point, I just lost it, screaming at my family members and calling them all a-holes. I cried about how this is the 15th year in a row that they've left me out and forgot about me, and how they ruined my birthday by always prioritizing my cousin. My cousin and little brother also jumped in and defended me, saying that I'm always never thought of. My abuela had the audacity to deliberately interrupt me, telling me to sit down and stop yelling. Through anger, I yelled that I never wanted to see any of them again and stormed off. My cousin and brother followed me, all comforting me while I cried my eyes out. This happened a few days ago, and I've been receiving angry messages from my family members calling me an ungrateful bee. I'm at my cousin's apartment right now writing this, all while texting my brother to vent. Reddit, am I the a-hole for yelling at my family for not giving me the cake that I've wanted for nearly my entire lifetime? I mean, we all have a breaking point, right? And it sounds like this was a long time coming anyway. Yeah, I would have been pretty upset too if this was me. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. This was years of resentment piled up. This family put stress on not only you, but also your cousin. It's good that you two seem to have a good relationship and can stick by each other, along with your brother. Not the a-hole. Your family seems toxic. It's also kind of shocking that your own parents are giving your cousin priority over you. I don't know if it's to the point of completely severing them from your life, but it sounds like it's close. If you still live with them, you might want to consider looking for a job so you can move out. Or if you're going to college, getting some student loans and moving out with that money. You've just turned 18, so it might not have sunk in yet, but you can literally do or get yourself whatever you want now. You don't have to put up with them or listen to them. Also, have your future B-Day parties with friends and specifically tell your family they are not invited. Not the a-hole. Apart from your cousin and little brother, your family is horrible. Your mother knew this was an issue for you, made a promise, broke it, and expected you to just shut up and stay quiet about it like you did the previous 14 years. This isn't really about the cake. It's about the fact that you're the lost child in your family, and no one cares except your cousin and brother. I mean, if they wanted to plead ignorance, they should be sending messages of concern or confusion, but instead all you're getting are insults for daring to not want to stay in your assigned role of misery. They knew they were ignoring you, they just didn't care, and are trying to guilt-trip you into staying in their horrible world of dysfunction. When your brother is old enough to be dependent, you and him should ditch these people and heal from whatever damage this dysfunction has done to you. Your cousin may be forced by them to choose to eventually, but it sounds like she's a good person who will choose you without a second thought, because unlike them, she actually likes to see you happy. Now Opie gives a couple edits. After reading the replies, my cousin and I have made the tough decision to block all of the toxic family members and go non-contact. I'll be living at my cousin's apartment now, and we're working on finding me a job. I won't be responding to any more comments, but just know that I'm in a safe place right now, and we're working on where to go from here. Not just a job, but finding a way to afford college for me and such. Thank you, Reddit. There might be update posts soon, since a lot has happened after the drama of going no contact. Opie gives more context and replies to some comments. Your cousin and brother sound like the only reasonable people. Maybe you could go out just the three of you for cake. Opie says, funnily enough, that's exactly what happened after I walked off. My cousin took my brother and I back to her apartment, and she went to our local Walmart to get an Oreo ice cake for me, as well as 18 candles. She sang Feliz Cumpleaños to me and gave me $100. Someone asks, where are your parents in all of this? Why have they let this happen over the years? Opie replies, my parents funded the parties, as well as my aunt, uncle and abuela. I remember asking them why I never got my own cake when I was 11, and they simply told me, "We just don't have enough money." But that's a lie, since our house that I've grown up in is pretty big. They have 2 BMWs in the driveway, and my little brother is going to private school soon. Did your mum forget? Is she too broke? Opie says, "It seems like she just didn't want to get it. She even texted me, 'Can't believe you're mad that I didn't get you a damn cake. You didn't need it anyways.'" Why is everyone seemingly against you? What is the root of this favoritism? Is there any context? Opie replies, "I hate to make this a long self-pity party, but I'll tell everything that's happened growing up. I was kind of an unwanted child by my dad since he wanted a son, and I wasn't feminine enough for my mother. I even remember when I turned 6 that my parents just kind of put me to the side after my little brother was born. I've never really felt like I earned the spotlight enough. They would always congratulate my brother when he made an accomplishment, but mine just kind of fell flat. My parents are the type that believe that art isn't a real job, so they just kind of shook me away whenever I showed them a drawing I made. And my mother would always make offhand comments on how much she wishes that I was like my cousin, who's more feminine, traditionally ladylike, and was an academic scholar back in school. She graduated with summa cum laude. I was basically a C-average student, tomboyish, and kind of average-looking in appearance. I get that I'm not the perfect kid, but I kind of wish my parents at least would treat me like their kid, you know? Growing up, my parents always compared me to my cousin. Emily has better grades, her pictures look prettier, her blonde locks are gorgeous. I have African American roots, so I have curly, frizzly hair. You're going into art? Well, she's going into medical school. I've never resented my cousin for being better, but I hated my parents constantly shoving it in my face. On Opie's quince. Here's the funny thing. We had separate quinces, but since my cousin's 17th birthday fell on my 15th, they also went out making her look and feel like a princess. My cousin's only going non-contact with our abuela, my parents, and any other toxic family member. She's still contemplating her parents at the moment. As for my brother, he's still a minor, so he has to put up with them for a few more years. She and I blocked them on everything else as well, since my abuela tried to message my cousin on Facebook that I was corrupting her little angel, and she wanted her to stay pure and good. Yeah, sounds like this family's a bit of a handful and never really acknowledged OP. Let's go to the update. Hello everybody, Teresa here. A lot has happened within the last 5 months of the incident at what was supposed to be my 18th birthday party. There were many ups and downs, and that's just mentally drained me. Alright, first off, I blocked my family members, the toxic ones at least. A lot of commenters suggested this, so I took this as the best course of action. I've been receiving call after call from my family members, chastising me for making a scene, and breaking my cousin's trust with them. My cousin was appalled by their behaviour towards me, and decided to cut all of them out. I've been living with my cousin for about a month after that point. I was able to get a job, and help out just a little. I started taking online classes and saving up some money for my own apartment, because I felt like I was being too big of a burden for my cousin. My cousin tried to stress that I was welcome to stay as long as I needed, but I told her that I was ready to leave everything behind. Back in October, I was packing some things up to get ready to move. My cousin told a family friend about this, and said friend told my mother, who reached out to me on a burner account on Instagram, asking if we could meet up and talk. My heart ached when I realised who it was. I haven't heard from my mother for 4 months by that point, so I was admittedly sceptical. This may have been a dumb move, but I agreed to come, under the condition that my cousin assisted me. We met up at a local restaurant, and I saw my mother for the first time in months. She looked depressed and lost a lot of weight, and seemed happy to see me, for once. She tried to hug me, but I stopped her. She respected that. We sat down and began to talk, catching up with everything. At the end of the conversation, she apologised and asked if we could start things over. As much as I wanted a relationship with my parents, I just told her that I couldn't forgive her for the past 15 years, of always making me feel unimportant, and making me feel worthless after all this time. I told her that for once in my life I was legitimately happy, and that things would be better if we never spoke again. My mother, surprisingly, didn't contest this. She just hung her head and paid the bill. That happened a month ago. As of right now, I've moved far away from home, halfway across the country. I'm still no contact with my parents and toxic family members. I live in a small apartment, and I have a decent job as a waitress. My cousin, little brother, and I chat time to time, and we're still doing as great as ever. It's a bit quiet here, so I might adopt a puppy soon. I wish I could say it was a happy ending with a crap ton of drama and everybody clapped at the end, but it's best to just tell the truth. Thank you everybody for your advice. Yeah, sometimes it takes a hard decision like that to move on with your life. I respect that from OP. What do you guys think about this one? Let me know down below. Perhaps you've got a similar story. Anyway, let's go to our next one. Okay, this one was posted on the same subreddit. It was written by user Searching for Story, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that not everything is about his disability? I, 17 female, and so over my brother's, 18 male, attitude. My brother was born with a chronic condition where he has to use forearm crutches. He can sometimes get around without them, but he needs them whenever he goes out. When we moved to our home, he got the bedroom on the main floor and I took the upstairs one, because stairs were way easier for me. A few months ago, I was hit by a drunk driver while driving home from an event. The accident was pretty bad, but thankfully everyone lived. I was very injured in the accident and I'm now wheelchair bound for the foreseeable future. Doctors are hopeful I'll regain full control over my legs, but it's too early to really know. Because of this, my parents told my brother that he would have to take the upstairs room, because I literally cannot get up there without my dad carrying me or literally crawling. He was not thrilled with this and flipped out, yelling about how it was too hard for him to use the stairs every day. I'm sympathetic to his struggles, but we only have the 2 bedrooms for us, and I quite literally cannot use the stairs. My mum offered that we could share a room, but his room is already tiny and will be a tight fit for me and him, 2 beds and my wheelchair, and he also hated the idea. This morning he was complaining about how awful it was that my parents were making their disabled child go up a full flight of stairs every morning and night, and I snapped at him, telling him that not everything is about him and his disability. He seemed quiet and mad for the rest of the day. I did apologise for being kinda harsh, but he just walked off. My parents are looking into getting some type of chairlift for the stairs, but they're really expensive, so it will be a while before we can get one. Am I the a-hole? I mean, technically they're both disabled now, so his comment about having to go up a flight of stairs as the only disabled person in the house is pretty self-centered. Let's go to the comments. There's lots of not the a-holes, but I'm going with no a-holes here. Just because your brother is more mobile than you doesn't mean he's mobile enough to use the stairs on a regular basis and not risk hurting himself. It also really sucks to be told it's that or share your already small room with your sister. Of course, this isn't your fault either. You didn't ask to be put in this crappy situation, but neither did he. Not the a-hole. I sympathise with your brother's situation, but can't help but wonder if he's come to expect some preferential treatment in your family without consciously realising it. You're disabled and it's not fair to either of you to have to share rooms at your age. Yeah, 100%. Let's go to the update. I talked with my parents and brother and I think we're going to be okay. We're now planning on renovating our little room into a bedroom, adding a door and stuff. For now we're putting up a curtain and I'll be staying in there, so my brother can have his old room back. The curtain is a super temporary solution and I'm fine with it as long as it's temporary. I talked some with my brother about how I've been feeling. He's been stressed that now that I also need help, maybe his needs won't get met, and I felt like he wasn't being understanding of the huge change I'm going through right now. I was hoping my brother and I could get closer through this hard time and bond over our shared struggles. I wasn't really feeling supported by him and lashed out, which wasn't fair to him. We brought these concerns to my parents and they talked with my brother. They promised him that he can always tell them if he feels his needs aren't being met. My parents don't want him to feel like a secondary priority. Things are good between my brother and I now. He gets why I lashed out, and I apologise to him. I think we're going to be okay. Okay folks, that's the end of that one. Yeah, pretty good ending there. Seems like they were able to work something out. And yeah, highly stressful situation. I get why they lashed out. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be my friend's alibi so he can cheat on his girlfriend? I, male 21, have known my friend Matt, 21, since we started college. We're in the same program and have been roommates since day one. Overall, I'd say Matt is a great guy, however, he has a terrible tendency to cheat. Throughout college, I think Matt had 5 to 7 different girlfriends, and each of those relationships ended because he would cheat. Back in January, he started dating his current girlfriend, Jen, 21, and has been with her for far longer than any of the other previous relationships. From my interactions with Jen, I know she is a wonderful person. She's very polite, beautiful, and clearly devoted to Matt. For the past few weeks, Matt has also developed a close relationship with his anatomy lab partner, Cindy, female 21. It's become pretty clear to me and my other housemates, Kyle, 21, Robert, 22, and Omar, 20, that there is some romantic relationship between them. We've even all met Cindy as she came by our house a few times. Long story short, Matt has told me and the other guys that things between him and Cindy are moving fairly quickly and that Jen is completely in the dark about this. He told us that, for the foreseeable future, he'll be spending a few nights hanging out at Cindy's place. Here's the issue. Jen and her roommates don't live that far from us, about a 7-minute walk, so there's a good chance she'll come by looking for him, according to Matt. Therefore, he wants us all to make excuses for his absences and potentially reassure Jen that he isn't up to anything bad. Kyle and Robert are fully on board with this, as they consider it the bro code. Omar is fully against this, and while he has not said he'll tell Jen, he has refused to lie for Matt and has been urging him to end things with Cindy. I would say I'm more neutral. I don't think what Matt's doing is appropriate, but I don't think it's my place to tell Matt how to manage his relationships. I told him that while I wouldn't seek Jen out and tell her what's going on, I wouldn't lie to her either about where he is and instead say, I don't know. We all argued about this for a while, and the general gist of things is that Kyle, Robert and Matt all think I'm being a bit of an arse for not being more cooperative. Aside from this, I don't think there's really much I can do. Moving to somewhere else is both economically and logistically unfeasible, so I think trying to avoid stirring the pot is my best bet. Am I the a-hole? Geez, don't you love the way Opie starts with, Matt is a great guy, and then proceeds to tell us how he's cheated on all of his girlfriends? Yeah, okay bro. Let's go to the comments. I'm with Omar. The bro code? Seriously? What about the moral code? I've always believed in the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. If I were in Jen's situation, would you want to continue being with someone who's made you look like a fool, with everyone knowing about the cheating except for you? She doesn't deserve to be the last to know. Your roommates are trash people, treating women like subhuman objects. A real man would just end the relationship. Are Jen and him in a committed relationship? If so, your friend is a dirtbag. Jen doesn't deserve that. I wouldn't lie for him. Your friend should break it off with her. You all are young, but your friend is not a good person. His history is showing it. In 10 years, you'll probably be embarrassed to have been friends with him. You know what happens when someone does something awful and a bunch of people don't do anything to stop them from doing the awful thing? You now have a group of awful people. These girls have feelings. Cheating is genuinely one of the more heinous betrayals, and you can make all the excuses in the world you want for your friend, but a good person doesn't serial cheat on women. He could simply ethically get laid, but instead decides to string these women along and play with them for his own selfish needs, and you and your friends are fine to enable it. Even if you don't tell her because you don't want to stir the pot, would stirring the pot just be uncomfortable for you, or do you have a real worry of being without a home? Your seemingly overall neutral stance proves that this just might be the right group after all, because you all suck, and you're weak. Okay, on to an update. I'll start this update by saying Jen found out last night. Like Matt predicted, she came over to our house Tuesday evening. I saw her pretty quickly since I was also coming back from buying some food. She asked me if I knew where Matt was, and I said I didn't know, because I genuinely didn't know at the time. She mentioned how he wasn't responding to her texts and that she was worried about him, and I felt pretty bad hearing that. Kyle, who was inside, came out at this point and said that Matt was in his anatomy lab, and then reassured her that he'd contact her once he was finished. She didn't seem entirely satisfied with that answer, but thanked us anyway and left. Once she was gone, Kyle told me that Matt was actually on a date with Cindy. Since Matt sometimes brings Cindy over, he'll text the house group chat before they come over to ensure that Jen isn't around. He did this on Tuesday night, and Kyle did alert him that Jen had stopped by looking for him, so he stayed over with Cindy on Tuesday night. Wednesday evening, only Omar and I are home. Kyle was with his own girlfriend, and Robert had an exam. Around 7 p.m, we got a text on the group chat from Matt saying he plans on bringing Cindy over around 8:30, and he asked if Jen came by. I told him that I hadn't seen her, and things went on as usual. I'll add that Omar has refused to respond to these specific text messages from Matt, so there was an expectation on me to clarify if Jen was here or not. A little after 8 p.m, Jen comes by with one of her friends, Carly, 21. They ask us where Matt was, since Jen hadn't been seeing him a lot lately. Before I could even say anything, Omar told them to come back after 8:30 and Matt should be home. They left, and I did argue with Omar about his decision to tell them to come back, since it was inevitably going to cause drama, but he didn't care. I did text Matt and told him about Jen potentially returning, but since he was driving, he didn't read the message. At this stage, I gave up trying to contact Matt and went up to my room. A little after 8:30, Matt walked in with Cindy, and not that long afterward, Jen and Carly returned. Omar let them in. Long story short, there was a lot of Jen yelling and Matt lying and apologising. I didn't bother coming down since I could hear it all from my room. After about 10 minutes of this, Jen and Carly left. Matt sent Cindy home after this and was pretty ticked at what happened. I reminded him that I sent text messages, which he now saw, and Omar played dumb, acting like he didn't see Matt's message about him asking if Jen was home, but confirmed to him that he told Jen to come back after the first time she came because he didn't think Matt was dumb enough to go out with Cindy 2 nights back to back. Robert and Kyle came home after this point, and I filled them in with what happened. There was definitely some tension in the house this morning, as Matt thinks this all could have been avoided had Omar been more helpful. He also partially blames Cindy for wanting to come over so often. Overall, Matt doesn't really seem to care that Jen found out and broke things off with him. He said that he'll try apologising one more time, as he does prefer Jen to Cindy, and if she doesn't accept, he'll leave things as they are. As for Cindy, Matt has already told Kyle, Robert and me this morning that he plans on ending things with her after the December exam season. He says that he wants to be single again by New Year's Eve so he can have a fresh start. Kyle and Robert think this is pretty hilarious considering how much trouble he got into to be with her. Things have ended more smoothly than I thought, and I've made it abundantly clear to Matt to keep me out of his relationship woes. I've also asked Carly how Jen was holding up this morning as we share a class together. As expected, Jen was very upset about the entire ordeal, and she and her friends consider everyone at our house, aside from Omar, to be complicit and awful. Okay, now for a second update. I've been receiving a lot of DMs from people wondering how things turned out after the big reveal, so here's a quick recap. 1. Jen did not accept Matt's apology. She has indicated that she, in fact, never wants to see him again. 2. Matt is still with Cindy, and he plans on breaking up with her after exam season. According to him, Cindy is starting to feel pretty secure now that Matt is no longer with Jen, and has expressed her desire to form a serious relationship with him. While he does feel a bit guilty, he thinks it's best for both of them that he ends things with her before New Year's. 3. Despite feeling guilty, Matt has attempted to reactivate his Tinder account, but Kyle made him take it down. Kyle thinks it's too soon for Matt to do this since someone we know is bound to see him there, and according to Kyle, Matt needs to play up the angle that he's heartbroken about falling out with Jen. 4. Kyle has smoothed things over with his girlfriend by claiming he had no idea Matt was cheating. Robert backed him up on this and expressed that nobody aside from Matt knew. 5. While I did plan on telling Carly the truth about what was going on, considering how quickly Matt, Kyle and Robert have been moving, I opted against this. Instead, I've told Carly that I also didn't know about Matt's cheating. Yes, it's a lie, but since I was against Matt cheating, I don't think it's fair for me to go down with the ship, considering that both Kyle and Robert are getting off relatively scot-free. Apparently, I was convincing enough as Carly told me that while she herself doesn't think I'm so bad, Jen will need time to process what went down, so it's best to give her space. Again, I get it isn't the most appropriate measure, but I really don't think I deserve to be in the splash zone. 6. Omar has expressed his strong disappointment in all of us, but at this stage his voice has become ambient noise according to Kyle. Since I'm fortunately visiting my parents this weekend, I get to be away from the drama and hopefully any potential fallout. Also, since it's relatively earlier, we'll have to wait and see if anything else happens, but I hope and pray the worst is over. Yeah, honestly, after reading all that, it's become pretty clear that Omar is the only one in this story with a spine. Like, come on guys, grow up, seriously. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Maybe you got some similar stories to share, let me know. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Okay, this next one was written on a personal account. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, I went to my girlfriend's parents for Thanksgiving, and it went horribly. We've been dating for over a year, and I've met her parents a few times, but just things like dinners. They live 4 hours from us, and this was going to be the first holiday we spent together. Her parents, her younger brother, and younger sister. We drove down Thanksgiving morning, and we're going to spend the night there, then a few days at a resort. Her parents are blue-collar and church-going. I teach high school math. A bit of a cultural difference. My girlfriend made me promise not to get into a discussion with her dad on politics or religion. I was fine with that. I'm not going to change his mind. Her dad never hid the fact that he didn't respect me. He kept making comments about teachers indoctrinating students, Common Core and other nonsense. No reason to get into a fight. I'm sure that's what he wants. I mostly ignored him, but he never let up. He was a total ass. Everyone was uncomfortable, and her family avoids confrontation with the dad. My girlfriend and her mum tried to change the subject, but they never stood up to him. I was done with his crap and told my girlfriend she could say something, or I would be more than happy to. She begged me not to make a scene, so I didn't. I went upstairs, packed up, thanked everyone, and left. I told my girlfriend she should stay and get her parents or brother to drive her home. We don't live together. I went on to the resort and enjoyed my weekend. My girlfriend has been trying to apologize, but when I asked what she said to her dad when I left and what he said, she still never confronted him. He never took responsibility. Sounds like he continued to insult me after I left. I've never seen her so avoidant. She's only like that around her dad. Her only solution seems to hope that he'll eventually lighten up. Do I tell her to stop being afraid of her dad? Do I confront him and put him on blast? Or is this a learning experience that we're just not compatible? On to the comments. Have you asked your girlfriend how her father punishes those who disagree with him? There is a reason that people avoid conflict. Out of fear, out of a desire to please, or out of habit. You need to find out which, so that your girlfriend can decide whether she wants to change her tactics with him. If he's a blue-collar churchgoer and a conspiracy theorist, chances are he feels threatened by things he doesn't understand or that don't align with his beliefs. His tactic then is to bully or antagonize those who disagree with him. He is the patriarch of a religious family, which probably means he's used to getting his way and not being questioned on his views or decisions. You are a threat to that. There are 3 ways to handle this. 1. Avoid seeing him altogether. As you said, you're never going to change his mind, and let your girlfriend decide if she's happy to see her family without you. 2. Confront the a-hole and tell him you may disagree with each other, but that respect should be mutual. You're not going to respect a man who treats you poorly. You could really dig the knife in and say, a man who is certain of his beliefs shouldn't need to condescend or tear down those who don't agree with him. Ask him if his faith isn't strong enough to be questioned. And 3. Break up. It's up to you. You don't argue with someone that has significant mental health issues. You just try to ignore the crazy and work around it. You said this is out of character for your girlfriend, so she knows how to stand up for herself. Trust her that this is her best option. I have to deal with a lot of crap from my father because I'm not willing to sacrifice the relationship I have with my mother. If you can't accept that this is how your girlfriend wants to handle it, then you aren't compatible. It's okay if you never want to be in the father's presence again though. She can still do holidays with her family, without you. Only you know if that's acceptable to you. Yeah, some great advice there. On to an update. I appreciated all the comments. A significant number of comments said I shouldn't ask nor expect her to stand up to her dad, so I didn't. I also don't want to break up with her, but we're setting expectations and she can decide if she can live with them. I wanted to respond to some comments, but the post got locked before I had a chance. I started by apologising for leaving her and not continuing our vacation as planned. She also apologised for not leaving with me Thursday night. She wasn't mad I left. She knew I was frustrated with him and the promise I made to her. However, she was hoping things would be better in the morning. She ended up spending the weekend with her family. She wanted to spend time with her brother, sister and mum. One promising comment she said is they basically ignored and excluded her dad from everything they did that weekend. I asked if her dad physically abused her or her mum, and she was really taken aback by this. She got a little upset at me and said he would never lay a hand on his family. She asked why I'd even ask, and I said her family was so reluctant to stand up to him. even going as far as asking me to promise not to, that I thought they might be afraid he'd react physically. She said that's just how he is, but he's gotten worse the last few years. He thinks his family shouldn't question or criticize him, especially not in his own home. We set clear boundaries. I will never go to his house again if that's his attitude, unless things change drastically. If they want to visit in the future, it will be at my house, or if we get to that point, our house. I won't ignore or defer though. I asked if she'd be okay with having little or no contact in the future if his behaviour continues. She was very reluctant to promise that and feels he'll eventually change his attitude. I told her she doesn't have to ask him to apologise or even pretend to like me, but it's all in his court and depends completely on how he acts. She won't stand up to him, so I'm taking it out of her hands and doing it myself. I don't care if I ever see them again. We're spending Christmas with my family. They absolutely love her and she has a good relationship with my mum. My parents live close and my girlfriend is becoming my mum's favourite. I think my mum is starting to like her more than me. Our parents haven't met each other. They wouldn't put up with his crap. A lot of people criticise me for my blue-collar church-going comment. I was trying to stay in the rules of the sub and not discuss politics. What I should have said is he sounds like every other extremist media junkie parent who repeats the same anti-vax CRT conspiracy nonsense nearly verbatim. Fake Christians who misinterpret the Bible to bully LGBTQ kids and ban books. Is that a better background? I put up with that garbage and personal attacks and didn't respond because my girlfriend specifically asked me not to argue. Plus he wants to play the victim, wants to pretend everyone looks down on him. I can't say crap to my students' parents either. Do I think I'm better than blue-collar workers? No. Do I think I'm better than QAnon idiots uncritically repeating whatever's been pumped into their brain? Yes. That's where we're at. I understand my girlfriend's family dynamics. I'm not mad at her anymore. I am a little disappointed, not gonna lie. She's a product of her upbringing and unlike to change. Fortunately, she's not like that in the rest of her relationships. Okay guys, and that's that. Yeah, honestly, I have my doubts that the dad will actually change. The girlfriend kind of sounds like she's in denial, saying that he will, but yeah, I just don't see it happening. I don't know, what about you guys? Let me know. Anyway, let's move on to our next one. Okay, jumping back to Am I the A-hole, this one was written by user Fearless Try, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for trying to stop someone getting a house? My mum has had the same neighbours for 50 years. Her next door neighbour was in a government subsidised home. The lady has now moved to a long-term assisted living facility, so her house is vacant. One of our other neighbours has a daughter married with a few kids. They want the now vacant home as she would be directly opposite her mother and the house has a garden for the children. They asked us if we would sign a petition to convince the government to house them there. This is where the problem is. Our neighbours are wonderful people, so is their daughter and grandchildren, but the son-in-law is a thug. He has tried to intimidate my extended family over a public parking space which he has claimed as his own, screaming obscenities at us, revving his car like he'll mow us down, and using his sheer size to stand over us to intimidate us. My elderly mother is terrified of him, but because of how wonderful my neighbours are, she feels like she cannot refuse to sign this petition. She said she feels incredibly anxious about potentially living next door to this man. As it stands, she will not leave the house or car if he is there, as she is so afraid of him, and at the moment he is just there occasionally, but if he is living next door, she feels like she'll be trapped. Yes, I wanted to report him to the police and to the housing agency, but my mum didn't want to make him angrier, so she wouldn't allow me. Would I be the a-hole if I reported him to the housing agency anyway? I do not want my elderly mother to feel afraid entering and leaving her own home for maybe the amount of time she has left on this planet. Okay, on to a few comments. Maybe the reason the neighbours want their daughter nearby is because she's being abused. Opie replies, I really do think her parents suspect domestic violence. The poor girl looks truly miserable every time I see her. This is where my conscience is fighting me. Shouldn't whomever has been waiting the longest get it? If you were to report, could you do so anonymously? Opie says, in theory, yes. Whoever is on the list longest should get priority, but sadly that doesn't always happen. I am afraid for my family's safety, that is true, but I need to make sure I can report anonymously. On Opie's mum moving. My mum is 77, she owns the house, and while it's lovely, it's not worth very much. It would be difficult for her to sell and move, financially and emotionally. Okay, onto an update. Just to clear up something, I'm not racist. The guy's a huge, enormous white guy with a massive chip on his shoulder. Clearly, thug has connotations of something different across the pond. Surely it's behaviour that dictates being a thug and not ethnicity. I contacted the local housing authority without my mother's knowledge, and the lady laughed, saying the neighbours already have a roof over their heads and those still on the waiting list will get priority. They told me to sign the petition so as not to draw attention to ourselves and to keep the peace. She said, of course, the housing officer appointed for that house or area will have the final say, but the chances of asshat getting the house are truly minuscule. The petitioner landed on Mum's doorstep this week and I duly signed for her, wished them the best of luck, blah blah. So at the moment I can rest, and my concerns have already been forwarded to the relevant person, and the antisocial behaviour unit has also been updated. Thank you all for the encouragement, I really needed it. And the person who told me to never let my fear of being rude affect my safety or my family's safety, you are completely correct. I am conflict avoiding at all times, but that isn't right either. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend she should have seen her husband and her friend's affair coming? Background. I, 35 female, was friends with Julia, 35 female, and Alex, 34 female. We have been friends since college, but our tiny group expanded from 3 to 7. This story is about Julia and Alex. 2 years ago, we all came to know that Alex was having an affair with a married man. Her excuse was that he was unhappy, and that is why he is seeking outside validation. I advised her to stop it, and this is not healthy because he will not leave his wife. She didn't listen. Rather, accused me of being a bad friend. All of my friends were against it, but to them it was not my monkey, not my circus. So I contacted the wife and told her everything. I knew who the wife was because the married man once introduced us, and everyone in my friend group turned against me, especially Julia because she thinks I betrayed my friends. She stopped talking to me because if I can betray a close friend of mine, then I can betray her as well. Alex was heartbroken because the married man decided he wanted to work on his marriage, so he broke things off with Alex. Julia was with Alex and I was shunned from our group. What happened now? A few weeks ago, I got a call from Julia. She was crying and telling me that Alex betrayed her. She has been having an affair with her husband, and that she is heartbroken because she has supported her, and this is how she repays her. Even our friend group is divided. I was angry at that moment. I mean, she ignored me for 2 years, bad-mouthed me, said that I was wrong. I literally warned her that Alex was toxic, so I told her that she should have expected this from Alex. I mean, did she really think she'll show loyalty towards you when she already did something immoral before? I knew the moment she made excuses of having an affair with a married man, her morals were compromised. I'm not religious, but I do have minimum respect towards other people and their feelings, and suffice to say, I'm not surprised she went after her husband. I do think I went too far, because some of my other friends said I was too harsh on her. Even if what I said was the truth, I should have been more sensitive because she's going through a divorce. I do sympathise with Julia, but I also feel like as friends, sometimes we need to tell them the harsh truth. I know I said all of this when I was angry, but a part of me says she needed to hear that. Was I wrong? Yeah, this really sounds like one of those I told you so moments, right? Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. She's responsible for ostracising you from the group because she'd rather support the cheater, then comes to you for sympathy when that backfires on her. You're better off without these friends. Not the a-hole. Don't get sucked in. It's been 2 years and Julia only reached out because she wants your support, not because she wants to be friends. She cut you off for 2 years because you had compassion for the wife of your friend's affair partner. That's insane. You don't need a friend like that. Not the a-hole. What you tolerate is what you are. Cheating undermines everyone and makes cheater apologists of those who know but do nothing. You have been consistent to your standards, and those who criticize it really are critiquing their own ethics. Okay, update time. I've read many of your comments. First of all, I want to clear this thing out, that I do not regret telling the wife about the affair. I do not think I did the wrong thing. My friend was doing something bad and psychopathic in my opinion. She happily contributed to destroying a family, knowing the man she was dating was a married man. I know the blame should be on him, but she also needs to take accountability of her actions. If I was getting cheated on, I would want to know. So I guess the wife also wanted to know. I know a lot of you have shamed me, but just know I do not care. I was not the affair partner, so why should I take the blame? I was simply a messenger. Now to the actual update. I did speak to Julia and said that I was sorry. I shouldn't have punched her down when she was already going through some crap. I did not want to add it. I know a lot of you have told me to just cut her off, but I realized I was too harsh on her, even if what she did 2 years ago was wrong. But she came to me because she needed a friend. I can sympathize with her in her tough times. She just went on and on about how she felt betrayed by Alex when she has always defended her, even when her own parents disowned her. Just out of curiosity, I asked her if she has plans to divorce her husband or work things out. She said she's going for divorce. Her husband is begging her for another chance and even said he'll cut off all contacts with Alex along with the offer of opening their marriage on her end, but she is headstrong on her divorce. She did ask for my forgiveness and I do forgive her, but I still do not want anything to do with her. I do feel sorry for her and hope she finds peace, but our friendship will never be restored to its own glory. She said that she understands and this is probably her karma and God is punishing her. She's quite religious. That's the end. I hope she takes him to the cleaners. And from the grapevine, I heard that Alex has been shunned from my former friend group because now they're afraid she might go after their husband. And as for Alex, I do believe she is a psychopath who enjoys breaking up families. I do not think any amount of exposing will work on her because she has no shame. She deliberately goes after married and committed men, and I'm glad I cut ties with her way before she could get to me. That's it. Have a great life, and stay away from all the Alexes of this world. Yeah, pretty sound advice there at the end. Love to hear your thoughts about this one. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Okay, this next one was also posted on Am I the A-Hole? It was written by a now deleted account, and it's titled, Am I the A-Hole for outing my wife's asexuality after she just let her friends gang up on me? A little backstory. Been together 9 years, married a little over 3. We both had incredibly high sex drives in the beginning, and like normal, after some time, they began to come and go. We used to never go more than a few days without having sex. We got married just before the pandemic, which might have added to things, but the long and short of it is, after some personal therapy at the beginning of 2020, my wife concluded that she was asexual and mostly had sex for my benefit and to maintain the relationship. Looking back, I can kinda see it now. It would have been nice to know beforehand, but it is what it is. She still offers sex once in a while because she knows I want to have it, but I turn it down every time. It's no fun having sex with someone just doing it for your benefit. If I'm going to have sex with someone, they should actually want to have sex with me, not just for maintenance. Fast forward to this past Friday. We went to a party at one of her friend's house. I know a few people, so it's never too bad, although I'm not a big party guy. As usual, we end up being one of the last to leave. The last hour or so of these parties are usually chill. Just sit around in the living room, chat, catch up. It's quiet. But the conversations eventually turn sexual and personal, and I hate it, honestly, for obvious reasons. Namely, having to hear all these women talk about how much they love having sex with their husbands and partners, and all the things they do, and knowing I'll never have that. The worst part, though, is my wife makes up all these wild stories and things we do, not even have done in the past, just flat out lies, but because she's embarrassed of her asexuality, I just kinda nod along since she's not really comfortable with other people knowing. I'd come back from the bathroom to them having a conversation about oral sex. One story about how someone didn't like it at first, now they love it. Another about wishing they got it more. Another about liking it more than sex sometimes. Then it comes time for my wife to talk, and they're prying for details. For whatever reason, my wife decides to tell the truth and say that she can't remember the last time someone went down on her. Of course, she left out the key bit of context, which turned into this group haranguing of how I need to put in more effort, how my wife probably gives me head all the time and I don't return the favour, and how it's typical of men to be selfish lovers. I took it for a few minutes, hoping my wife would jump in and stop it. She just kept quietly saying, it's okay, I don't mind, he does other stuff, blah blah blah. But they kept going. Finally, one of her friends, who as an anecdote I frickin' despise because she's overly confrontational for absolutely no reason, demands to know why I don't eat my wife out more often, in a room full of like 9 other people. I look to my wife and ask if she'd like to chime in, but she doesn't. I shrug and say that I actually really enjoy performing oral sex on women, but that my wife doesn't let me because we don't have sex. My wife's face dropped as she shot a look at me. I didn't even explicitly say she was asexual. I just said we didn't have sex, and haven't for a few years when further harassed about it. She immediately begins apologizing for me, explaining that things have been rocky so we haven't been having sex much, which I immediately shut down because that's not even remotely true. If anything, things have been great lately. If she's been having issues or doubts, this would be my first time hearing them. I finally gave up. I told my wife I was going home, but she said she wasn't done yet or ready to leave. I logged into Uber on her phone so she could use my account and told her she can take it home or stay the night, but that I would not sit here and be a punching bag because she was too ashamed to admit she was asexual. My wife immediately ran to the bathroom and I was told to leave. She came home not long after me and hasn't spoken much to me since, except to half-heartedly apologise, but that outing her like I did was worse. I apologised for outing her, but that she didn't leave me much choice. A few of her friends have messaged me calling me every name up and down the book and saying they're going to convince her to leave me. 1 or 2 of the boyfriends and husbands messaged me and said they were sorry and didn't know, and offered to buy me a beer if I wanted. Another of the friends, in an openly poly relationship, actually offered to have sex with me, which I showed my wife immediately. She says she knows it must have been crappy to sit there and take it, but that they're not really my friends. So some momentary discomfort from people I don't really associate with isn't comparable to her prolonged discomfort of significant people in her life now knowing she's asexual. I completely disagree, but can kind of see where she's coming from. So, am I the a-hole here? Oh wow, this is complicated. I mean, yeah, just because the girlfriend doesn't want to come out to her friends as asexual doesn't mean that OP can be a punching bag to all her friends. I think I agree with that sentiment. Let's go to the comments. There was an easy solution to this she could have taken forever ago. Don't talk about your sex life. Make it clear that as your partner, that she doesn't feel comfortable talking about what you both do in the bedroom. That keeps her desire to hide her sexuality intact, while also not screwing you over with lies. Not the a-hole, she just threw you under the bus in every way to keep face with her friends, instead of doing the small things to keep things she wanted private. Not the a-hole. She was willing to let you take the hit that she wasn't, not because it was less, but just less her problem. She outright lies to her friends to look good, but when it's you, oh well, better only to tell a half-truth. I wouldn't be remotely remorseful. She's way out of line. Not the a-hole. She literally said they aren't your friends, so why should you sit there and take a bunch of crap from people who aren't your friends? What the F? In what world do you let strangers talk crap about you and not defend yourself? Sorry, but she's just ticked that you made her look like the a-hole liar she is. She could have stopped it at any time, but chose not to. She has no one to blame but herself for the fallout that happened. You are under no obligation to have strangers, not friends, sit there and talk crap about you, and just accept it. You didn't out her asexuality. You corrected her friends' assumptions that you were a crappy husband who wasn't interested in sex and couldn't be bothered to satisfy her. Assumptions that she instigated by not explaining the situation and then doubling down and lying. You are under no obligation to protect her feelings when she clearly does not give a frick about yours. I'm honestly unsure why you're with this woman when she's changed the terms of your marriage so thoroughly and clearly has zero qualms about hurting you. But that's your business, not the a-hole. Rightio, onto an update. So I deleted the original post as it got pretty overwhelming. It was cross-posted to a few other subreddits. I got a lot of hate in my DMs. It even made it to those TikToks where a text-to-speech reads it with Minecraft gameplay in the background, which led to precisely where I am now. It had come across one of her friend's feeds 2 days ago, who sent it to her, which led to a conversation and a fairly productive few days. In the time since, I did apologise for outing her, and she apologised to me for letting it get that far. She ended up telling all her friends, and none of them cared and were entirely supportive. She asked them to apologise to me because it was her who put me in that situation, but only one of them has, and it was a half-hearted one at that. Paraphrasing, but basically, yeah, sorry, but maybe it's best if you don't come to gatherings anymore, sort of thing. We've started back at couples cancelling too. I was happy with where things ended up after the initial conversation, but we decided to go back to get everything out and hopefully find a workable way forward. A few things I wanted to address from comments everywhere. Asexuality is real. She's not low libido. She has no libido and doesn't feel that urge everyone else does. She believes she never has, but talked herself into thinking it because that's what she felt she was supposed to do. I wasn't paraphrasing, misunderstanding, or putting words in her mouth. This is her description of it. A handful of people said it was entirely my fault for us not having sex, and my boundary was harmful to asexual people and childish, so I wanted to clarify. My wife was the one who used the phrasing of maintenance sex. She has made it clear that she has no desire for sex but will do it for me occasionally if I want it. In her words, it's a task that she is happy to do to keep me happy, and I'm not comfortable with that. It's more or less a favour, like if I asked her to pick up my dry cleaning. It's not selfish or childish to want a partner to actually want to have sex with you. Otherwise, it's masturbating with someone's body, which I'm not fine with. I'm fine without sex. That part was grossly overinflated in some comments. I was uncomfortable with the lying and being thrown under the bus. I value her for far more than sex anyway. There's more that defines a relationship than sex. Many people pointed out how it was weird friends sit around and talk about their sex lives. I believe so to some degree. These aren't super raunchy conversations anyway, but I see no issue in close friends being open about things like this. It's not a big deal to me personally. A couple people sent me resources on being a partner to someone who is asexual, and I want to thank you for that. In her defense, without me asking, since I wouldn't be comfortable telling her who and who not to be friends with, she has turned down a couple of invites to go out since, and has removed the two main instigators from social media, which is enough for me. Some people were confused on the ages too. Everyone is late 20s to mid 30s. I'm not going to divorce her, so you can stop wasting time suggesting that. So yeah, boring update, I know, but everything is fine. Okay, and we've reached the end of that one. Yeah, pretty good ending all in all there. I think the partner definitely overestimated how much the friend group would actually care about her being asexual. I mean, there was no need to lie about it like that for so long. Let me know what you guys think about this one, and we'll move on to our next story. Okay, we're over on the Am I Wrong subreddit. This one was written by user Bull Smuggler, and it's titled, Am I wrong for calling off our wedding after my sister-in-law shaved my beard? My 28 male, fiancé 25, who we'll call Lexi, are a happy couple of 6 years and engaged for one, or so I thought. For context, my fiancé's sister, 32, we'll call her Sally, has always been hostile towards me and would rarely speak to me, and when she did, it would be because her parents were around. Sally is Lexi's rock because she got her through a tough time during college, and since then Lexi has told Sally everything about everything. We've had problems with this in the past due to her telling Sally personal things about my childhood I'd only told a few people, which led to us not speaking for 3 months during COVID, when she'd only leave our room for food and to go to the toilet. And recently we hadn't had an argument in a year plus, until 3 nights ago she mentioned that she'd like me to shave my beard. For context, I have a very thick beard that I've been growing for 8 years and am very proud of. So I of course told Lexi I wouldn't be shaving my beard, to which she stormed off to the kitchen and slammed her wine glass into the sink, smashing it and a plate in the process. I immediately stood up and asked what the F she was doing. She then spun around and screamed that I'm a selfish a-hole because I won't shave my beard, and ran to our bedroom and slammed the door. I ended up sleeping on the couch and woke up at around 4 AM to Sally with a razor trying to shave my beard, so I pushed her off me. Lexi then ran to check on Sally whilst I was looking at the big patch Sally had taken out of my beard. Then I went upstairs and packed a bag whilst Lexi shouted at me for hurting Sally. I told her to F off and that the wedding was off, and walked out of the house and drove an hour to my parents' house where I'd been staying since this incident. Earlier today, I got a text from Sally saying I was selfish for not shaving my beard because when I go down on Lexi it feels weird, and I haven't replied to her. My family think I should break off the relationship, but her family said I should just shave it all and move on. So what should I do? And am I wrong? Whoa, this is proper psycho nightmare stuff. Let's go to the comments. Mate, you need to reread what you wrote out. Your fiancée is unhinged, and her sister is a C-word. Getting so angry about a beard that she smashed a plate and glass? Her and her sister deciding your boundaries are irrelevant. Even the fact that she can't keep anything you say to her to herself. This is not someone you would want to spend your life with. Best thing you can do now is trim your beard to hopefully even it out, then let it grow again. It can serve as a reminder of this incident. Okay, so let me get this right. You were assaulted and you're wondering if you're wrong to not want to get married? No, you're not wrong. Young man, as a much older lady, I can tell you with complete certainty that both of these women are not right in their head. No one does something like that to another person, period. You, my dear, have dodged one huge-ass bullet. That's not normal behaviour in any of those scenarios you described. Drama and self-deluded behaviour by both just showed you what your future would be if you marry that girl and her scary-ass sister. They're obviously a package deal. Oh, did I mention run? P.S. Remember, never stick your dick in crazy. You even got a bonus crazy chick this time. You did the right thing. You'll look back at this 20 years from now and say, WTF was I thinking? Now run faster and further away from the psycho sisters. Get the ring back too. Okay, now Opie makes a bunch of small edits and a couple small updates. Edit. I don't know how many will see my other posts, so I'll put it here as well. I've now got, as of typing, 99 plus texts and calls from Lexi saying things like, don't leave, let's have sex one more time, and I'm pregnant. She's trying to baby trap me, I think. Lexi messaged me weird things, miss me, and I'll take the baby too. Sally then messaged me saying Lexi is in hospital being treated after a suicide attempt. I don't believe it at all. I've blocked Sally's number now. I called the police and showed evidence of her suicidal messages, so she hopefully will be getting checked into an institution. Lexi's aunt, who is the only person on her side that agrees with me, just called me to tell me Lexi has been checked into a psychiatric unit for 2 weeks. I'll keep you all updated if anything happens, but I should be okay for now. I just want to say thank you for the overwhelming amounts of support. I filed a police report on Sally for assault, and I'm in the process of cancelling the wedding venue. I'm back at the house and I've had a locksmith change the locks just in case. The wedding venue can't be refunded, but it was going to be paid by her parents anyway, so I don't care. I've also contacted my lawyers. Okay, now for a short update. Hi, just thought I'd pop in and give an update for you lot. I would like to give a short rundown of things since said event. Lexi and I separated, expectedly. My beautiful and brilliant adoptive mother passed away in November. I moved to the UK, specifically Sheffield. I bought my beautiful dog called Bailey. I shaved my beard and grew the world's greatest Movember mustache, since it's all for a great cause. Thank you all for the much needed abundance of support. I love you all. Righto guys, and that's it. Yeah, geez. Look, I know Reddit kind of jumps to the extreme in regards to leaving their partners straight away, but I think this is one case where it was justified. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. My girlfriend asked to open the relationship, and I just pointed her to the door. So, like the title says, my, 43 male, girlfriend, 36, asked that we open the relationship, and I just pointed her to the door. Was it too much? I strongly believe that in a monogamous relationship, when someone asks to open it, well, it's because that person saw something else out there and is ready to try it, instead of working on the relationship, basically blindsiding his or her partner. So I've been with Fran, 36, over the last 2.5 years, almost 2 as a couple. I thought that things were moving smoothly and was about to ask her to move in at the beginning of April, but lately she was acting rather distant, so I decided to wait a little and watch. I was cheated on in the past, so I'm a little cautious with some signs. Out of nowhere this last Friday, she asked me to open the relationship. She gave me all her big speech, and when she ended her presentation, I asked her if she has someone in mind, because it's not like we decided today and basically going out with the other person tomorrow. Basically, I tricked her into telling me what I already knew, and yes, she has someone in mind, which means to me that either she already did it, or she has it all set up. So I got up, walked around the apartment while she was trying to sell that this could be good for both of us and our relationship, and by the time she ended talking, I handed her one of my sports bags with all her stuff in it, and told her to leave the spare key over the table on her way out, that we're done, and she knows why. Then I went to the couch and turned on the TV, just trying to look indifferent and save face, She was speechless for a while, about to cry, but before she could say something, I tell her that I didn't want to talk about anything and she should leave. As soon as she left, I felt like crap, so unworthy. I cried a little, and as of right now, I'm still mourning. My phone has been going almost nuclear with all the calls and texts I received from friends of both sides about my extreme reaction over her simple request. I don't know what she told them. So now I'm sitting wondering if I really went overboard, and at the same time fighting the urge to run back to her, because deep inside, even knowing my feelings for her are still there, the trust is gone, and I'm not going to spend all my time watching her movements. It's not healthy. Maybe in time. I really don't know. Before anyone pointed out, yes, I know, my reaction is a pure reflection of me, not what she did or was about to do, or could do. So, did I go overboard? Let's go to the comments. What you did was fine. If she was not satisfied with the relationship, she should have handled that with you, not by planning a sex date with someone else. You were very nice to her considering what she did. Anyone who says any different is no friend of yours. Handled perfectly. You did nothing wrong. She already had feelings for another person, at least sexually, so she should go have fun with them. She just doesn't get to go have that fun and have you. If people in your life don't understand that, then they can pound sand too. Nah man, you killed it. You're the person everyone should aspire to be. More than half of the open relationship posts here could easily be avoided if people had a fraction of your courage. Power to you. Hope you find someone better. Take care. On to an update. First of all, thanks for all the replies and upvotes. It never crossed my mind that this post would have this much attention. I just wrote it to put order in my ideas and vent a little, and with the hope of a few people telling me if I went overboard. But I didn't expect the amount of replies I got. So many thanks for all of that. Some people pointed that maybe I went overboard, that maybe she wasn't aware of my position on the subject. I replied to some, but there were too many comments to get back to all. So to clarify, maybe a year back approximately, we had a couple friends in a similar situation, and for like a month, that was the main theme of conversation on our group of friends. And every time I said, that for me is a big no, and if one person in a relationship needs to be with other people, well, then she or he should leave. About the friends trying to mend things up, well, they weren't totally aware of the situation. Yesterday, after I posted here, and with my ideas more defined, I went to see a group of them and told them my point. All of them agree with me on different levels. Some of them wanted to let it go, and others wanted to burn her at the stake. Of course, a few girls in the group pointed that I could do things in a better way, and also there were a few questions about if I could consider giving her another chance. But for me, the main issue is not feelings. I know that I love her, but the trust is gone, and I don't want to find myself wondering all the time what she's up to. After I left, my friends talked to other people that weren't there, and basically the waters have calmed. If you're wondering what she's doing, I really don't know. I got a few texts from her, but haven't read them yet, and don't think I'll do it soon. Anyway, I know it's not much, but this is all I got for now. One commenter says, I think you should talk to her and ask her what she thought was going to happen, since you always made it clear that opening up the relationship was a big no for you. I don't think you reacted badly. I think she's the one who should be forever ashamed of herself for that. I hope everything works out for you. Opie replies, I don't know. Actually, I give a lot of thought about it. I don't know if I'd get a satisfactory answer. I don't find any logic because she knew me, and she should know part of me thinks that she wanted to break up to be with this guy, but didn't want to be the crappy girl that left one guy to be with the other, and maybe she was hoping for an aggressive overreaction from me so she could leave pointing that I was the bad guy and avoid that her friends made judgment of her. Maybe in a few days I'd be ready to have that talk, but not for now. Alrighty, straight to another update. Hello to every stranger interested in how things ended. I wasn't much on the idea about posting any other update, but some people have been asking, so here it is. Finally, after listening to various friends and some Reddit users, I talked to her, just to sort things out. Last Friday we met at our regular place where we take coffee. At the distance, she looked great, so great that I just wanted to say F it and drag her back to my place. It took a lot of restraining to not do it. When I got close to her, I noticed her sadness and she still has her eyes irritated from crying. We sat, and before she could say a word, I asked her to tell me the entire story, and that please don't let anything out of it, that I need it, and then I'd ask her a few things and also needed all the truth. The story is pretty basic. Around 2 months before she asked for the open relationship, on her girls' dancing night out, They met this exotic good-looking guy. During the first month, he was the new flavour that all the single friends on the group were trying out, which leads to girl talking and sharing experiences. Eventually, this guy, that was having his way with all the girls around him, set his eyes on Fran and began to flirt with her, taking her to the dance floor and having fun. Well, here is where she should have stopped things, because we had an agreement with dancing night that she would stay away from any guy, because we guys are pigs and it's pretty rare that a guy just wants to dance. Anyway, because of the excitement, she went for it, enjoyed the attention of this guy and had a great time dancing. Looking at the timeline, this was around the time I noticed that Fran was distant. Moving forward a few weeks, her friends were sharing more intimate stories about this guy, and that got into her mind. She found herself fantasizing doing it with him. Also, he was trying to make a move on her too, but from what she told me, she didn't go for it because she was with me. Drinks and drunken friends are bad counselors, and once the idea of the open relationship came out, they were chatting for over 2 weeks about how to convince me that because a long time ago I had threesomes and also swinged a little, I should be okay with the idea of an open relationship. But threesomes and swinging are things you do as a couple and out of the pure excitement. At least for me. It was a long time ago, early 20s. All this led to the day she asked to open the relationship. She told me that she and her friends never thought that I would end the relationship in that moment, that the worst scenario would be me getting angry and saying no, so there's no big deal in just asking. At this point I interrupt her and tell her that she should know better. We were together over 2 years and I always shared my thoughts about everything with her. She agrees. At this point I explained to her that I didn't break up with her for the question, I did it because there was already a guy, so for me that was a major trust issue. If this was some concern that came out naturally, maybe we could have worked it out. In the worst scenario, maybe we could have found an alternative, but the way things were, it was an alert for me. We went around of the topic for a while, and then I began to question her. Basically, I asked if she was intimate with him at some point. She said she wasn't. If she developed some feelings for him. No, she didn't. And lastly, if she's seen this guy again, and that was also a no. Even if that is not much, that was a small relief, but I explained to her that I can't go back to her. I need to close this for my own health. Also, I told her that we share a lot of friends and I don't want to lose any of them because of this, and it wouldn't be fair to ask them to choose, so we can behave like adults and keep things friendly. If my friends take one side, it's because they want it, not because I asked them to. She said how sorry she is, that if she could, would undo everything, but she knew it can't be done. She was about to cry. I was also too, so it was a good moment to ask for the check and leave. I walked her to her car, opened the door for her, just a habit of mine, and she started to cry. I couldn't help and hugged her. We stood there about 10 minutes. When she calmed, she got into her car and drove. I was in shock. I went home, grabbed my camping gear, and drove to the mountain and spent all the weekend there to clear my mind. Early this morning I was driving back to the city, and at the moment my phone grabbed signal, it got flooded with messages from friends and family, all worried because basically I disappeared without telling anybody. I text back to everyone telling that I was okay, that I went out camping and at the moment was driving to work. Also, I got a text from her, something on the lines that she feels that we're not over yet, and that she thinks I need time to leave all this behind me, and she'll wait in the hope of it. I haven't texted her back because I'm pretty sure I'm done, but the experience has taught me to never say never. So for now, I'm going to take it easy, doing what I like, and see where things take me. Well, that's it. Thanks all for your support and advice. Another commenter says, "Good job standing up for yourself. The moment she got another guy in her mind, she's no longer respecting you. Do not take her back. There are plenty of good women out there that will treat you right. Well, now she can get all the attention and sexual experience with any guy she wants, while being single, of course. Only a vile human wishes to explore their sexual desires while still in a relationship with others." OP replies, "To be fair, the mind plays tricks on us, so having thoughts or fantasies is pretty normal. Taking action is the issue. Here's where I draw the line. I don't wish her ill or anything. At the moment, I'm just a little sad. Not gonna lie, going back had crossed my mind a lot of times, but I just play in my mind the scenario of me back with her and always wondering and having the need to check her phone, and that's a big no for me. I don't believe she is vile, only we weren't on the same page. Also, I think deep inside she wasn't on the same page with her own self. Anyway, time to move forward and see what life has ahead of me." Okay, now onto the final update. Hello, it's been a while. The truth is I didn't plan to continue updating this story, but a few days ago a friend sent me a TikTok link where the story was, but now in Spanish. The translation was horrible, so I got some smiles at it and realised that I hadn't logged into Reddit in a while, so I decided to do it yesterday. I came across several messages, some asking what I was up to, others giving advice and encouragement, and of course, those asking for an update. I decided that it would be easier to write here than to respond individually to each of you. Well, here it goes. After almost a month and a half revolving around the matter, I still didn't have things very clear, but fortunately that's what best friends are for. I had a conversation with Clau and her husband Pete. My two best friends. Clau is like my little sister, and Pete is my best friend since college. After a while of talking, Clau put on her serious face. That's strange, he's always smiling, and told me, "You have to let her go. You know very well that in your head you will always be wondering what happened, and if you are really all that she wants, and regardless of whether that's the case, you'll never be sure." She also said something about how the only reason I haven't let her go is because I don't want to be alone. To be very honest, all of that is true. It was hard to hear it, especially because it came from the woman who I see as that little girl I took by the hand to school, and for some reason I couldn't stop wondering when she became more mature and wiser than me. Funny note, I jokingly asked her when she'd matured more than me, and she laughed and told me that I stopped maturing at 15, and that she'd caught up with me when she turned 10. We have 5 years difference. Anyway, back to the story. I gave the situation a couple more thoughts that week and went to talk to Fran, the ex-girlfriend. I just told her that clearly at this moment in life we wanted different things, and that it was better for each of us to continue on our own way, without resentments or bad feelings, and I said goodbye. Clearly she didn't like what I said, and she got sad. But, well, she has to process her emotions, and I have to process mine. I was in an emotional low for a while, and I focused on work, but things have slowly improved. No, I'm not seeing anyone, and I have no intentions anytime soon. I think it's a good opportunity to behave like an immature 15-year-old in the body of a 43-year-old and play video games, go camping, and be the envy of every one of my friends whose wives or partners don't let them go out to play. And that's it. Thank you for your interest in my story, your advice, and good wishes. Alrighty folks, and we've finally reached the end of that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. I respect OP sticking to his guns. Like, he even admitted that he was really tempted to go back to her, but he didn't. That's a hard thing to do. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Okay, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by a now deleted account, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for putting a tracker on my wife's car? Wife and I have been together for more than 25 years, and she's always done the bingo thing with her mum. I have no problems with that, and they've been doing it for years and years, maybe once or twice a month. Again, no problem. Her mum has always been a gambling addict, and it caused the divorce of her first husband, and she wiped out her second husband's bank account within a couple of years, so I've always been a bit leery on the whole gambling thing. I've seen it destroy families. Her mum lives with us now. 15 years ago, I worked out of town and state a lot, so she's always had control of our joint banking account. My checks were auto-deposit, so I never really broke down our bills as I should have. After I kept pressuring her to tell me where all our money was going, she broke down and told me she gambled it away at the casino. Slot machines. Big fight. At that point, I got a separate checking account, so at least the bills would be paid on time. I make a bit more than she does, but I pay most of the bills, and I'm still able to save up money every month. This has never been sustainable though, since any surprise bills, we have 2 teen kids, it's always me that pays for them. She's broke every month. When we were going over our tax returns, it turns out that she owes $6,000 in taxes, all from the casino. We went over the whole gambling financial problems again, and she shook my hand and promised that she would stop. Fast forward a few months, I bought a tracker online, one that I could put on my tractor. I let friends borrow it and want to keep track of it in case it gets stolen, and the kids' car, since they're turning 16 soon, I wanted to keep track of them. I had the tracker for a few weeks and decided to try it out one day. I threw it in the console of my wife's car just to see how the app works. She took off with her mum before I could tell her, and she texted me they were heading out shopping. Well, they went straight to the casino instead. I wasn't mad, but was definitely concerned. I felt guilty for spying on my wife, so I took it out and never said anything. However, curiosity killed the cat, and I threw it back in her car a few weeks later, this time on purpose and hidden. It's been a couple months, and they've been at the casino at least twice a week. Not the bingo hall, but the actual casino. I confronted her again today when she asked for money for kids' gymnastics. I asked her how her gambling issue is going, and she denies she's back gambling. I gave her many outs and she wouldn't admit it, so I then told her about the tracker. Now she's furious that I tracked her, and she threw out the D word. Sorry this post is all over the place, and I'm super nervous. We've been together for 25 plus years, and I'm freaking out. Edit. To clear up some info. My wife and 2 daughters already track each other on their iPhones. They always know where everyone is at, except for me, since my phone is a crappy Android that doesn't connect with their phones. I work construction, so my phones don't last long. I just replace it because it's cheap and I don't need anything fancy. The tracker I bought was just for tracking the vehicles if they were stolen or if something bad happened and my wife couldn't contact them through their phones. And yes, I would have told them it was in there. Yes, I should have confronted her about it the day I was testing out the tracker. Huge mistake, and it led to me being a creeper. I can't deny that part. I think I was just hoping it was a one-off white lie and not a normal thing. Let's see what the comments think. Not the a-hole. The only shocker is that she was the one who brought up divorce, since I doubt she wants to lose her personal ATM. Your wife needs help that you aren't equipped or trained to give. Not the a-hole. Man, I came in here ready to throw the "you're the a-hole" at you, but what you really need to be concerned about is how many loans could be out under your name, and whether you know all about the life insurance policies. A gambling addict is serious business, and I'm not at all kidding when I say you need to check those things out and start protecting yourself. She threw out the D word. We'll pick it up, run with it, and slam dunk it. How are you going to build a life for your kids and then retire if she's gambling away all your money? Those kids will have college to pay for. You'll want to stop working one day. Are you on track to do either if your wife keeps gambling? What if you wait to divorce her until she starts racking up debts you don't know about that you'll be legally responsible for? Addiction is simple, if not easy, to deal with in a partner. Either they get serious about help and monitoring or you leave. Trying to save an addict who doesn't want to change is a fast track to self-destruction, not the a-hole. Okay, update time. Welp, we had a fight. At first it was mostly her on the attack for all the things I do wrong that pushes her to the casino. I expected this and was able to turn it back around and keep the focus on the gambling. Long story short, lots of crying and opening up. I told her that she was the one person in this world that I trust the most, and she's also the one person that lies to me the most. That was the breaking point, and a long vulnerable discussion about where we are in our marriage and where it's going began. It's been a long time since we've had one of those. She has agreed to open up her finances so we can figure out what to do there. I have no idea how much we're in debt yet, but it sounds like quite a bit. Hopefully it's manageable. We're going to see a marriage counsellor, and she also agreed to go to a gambling addiction counsellor. Mother-in-law is probably moving out. Granted, this is just the beginning and who knows what will happen down the road, but it's a start. I'm pretty exhausted. We'll see how things are tomorrow. Thank you all for the opinions and advice. I'll try to read them tomorrow. I guess I don't care if I was the a-hole anymore. It had to be done, and I have no regrets. Alrighty, and that's that. Yeah, I tend to agree with OP here. At that point, it doesn't matter if you're hurting anyone's feelings or not. That conversation needed to happen. Give me your thoughts about this one down below. Am I the a-hole for divorcing during my husband's mental health crisis? Me, 38 female, and my husband, 38, married since 2009, and we have a preteen daughter. The last 3 years have been really tough on us because of my husband's bad working conditions that started to affect his mental health. I noticed signs of burnout and depression and brought up these concerns regularly to him. He was very dismissive and refused to see his situation and refused to therapy. He started becoming distant and often isolated himself and was regularly butting heads with our daughter. He eventually told me that he'd met a woman at work. Their relationship was not, according to him, physical, but he was in love with her and felt that she was his soulmate and best friend. He said he was very sorry and that he could not decide which woman he would ultimately be happiest with. He spoke out about this at home whilst I was having the toughest time of my life. I cried alone over my dreams and plans, everything we had together. He also told me that in order to clear his head, he would need to leave the house and spend some time on his own. That co-worker had offered him her spare room and he was going to take it. I asked for his help organising the rest of the school year as I was commuting, and I promised him that as soon as the school year was over, I would look for an apartment closer to my work, and me and our daughter will move out, and he can have the house to himself for his healing. I found an apartment almost immediately, and we moved. He visited us one weekend a month, and brought his chaos with him every time. The new home had become a safe haven that we cherished, and he took it over as soon as he appeared, and it felt like I wasn't breathing until he finally left. After 6 months of living like this, I decided that I've given things enough time to mend, and they had not. I was still hurt and bitter, and he was still cagey about what was going on, and what his ultimate decision really was. I told him I was done living like this, and that I wanted a divorce. He absolutely lost his crap, and left and drove back to our old house in the middle of the night, just to get away from me. A week later, he told me the co-worker is pregnant, and he was angry that I didn't even want to try to fix our marriage. Since then, he has gotten increasingly more hostile and accusatory in his communication with me. He blames me for breaking up the marriage and abandoning him during his crisis. He says he was not himself and has no idea why he did the things he did, but that I was the one who left. He claims I was no help when he needed me, and that I had clearly mentally abandoned our relationship long before, more than 3 years prior. He tells me I'm cold and calculating, and clearly not the person he thought I was. I understand that he is not well. He finally did go to therapy. I explained a lot of his actions with that in mind at first. So am I the a-hole he claims I have become, taking his daughter away and leaving? Let's look at some comments. You attempted to help him multiple times, and multiple times he shut you out. Instead of seeking help or getting a new job, your soon-to-be ex decided the correct path was an emotional affair that led to a physical affair. There is absolutely no reason to feel guilty about divorcing this guy. Not the a-hole. Stop indulging him. Coordinate his visitation with your daughter through an app. Do not discuss anything else. Keep all communication written. Stop second-guessing yourself. You have nothing to feel guilty about. Are you kidding me? The only mistake you made was letting him stay at your apartment every weekend. Not the a-hole. What a dick he is. You took your daughter and yourself from an unstable living situation. Sure, maybe it'd become stable tomorrow, but you gave it a lot of time. His mental health crisis may mean he's out of his mind, but either he's still responsible for his actions or he's not. If he is, you left him because of his actions. Seems reasonable. If he's not responsible for his actions, then you left him because he's deeply in crisis for an extended period, and you can't continue to live that way, or have your daughter live that way. I'm curious and concerned about your daughter's experience of this. Those are the people my heart goes out to most, your daughter and your husband's new child, because everyone else, a-hole or not, was some form of a volunteer for this. The kids get no choice but all the consequences. But I don't think leaving your husband while he's in crisis is unacceptable, especially given the long duration and terrible experience, for you, of that crisis. Not the a-hole. OP replies, honestly, it's our daughter I'm mostly worried about in all this. He clearly has changed a lot, no matter how much his mental health plays into it. Everything we used to be so much of one mind has changed for him. He will not keep his opinions to himself when our daughter visits him, and honestly, I'm left to pick up the pieces when she comes back and slowly opens up to what his father has been talking about during his visit. I'm really trying my best not to ever speak ill of him in front of her, and I basically keep my family in the dark because I don't want them to have an attitude towards him that could reflect on her. He seems to have no such issues, as I'm slowly finding out. He chews me up in private conversations, which I can deal with, but he also says stuff like, after your mother kicked me out, I can't help you anymore, and all I want is to have our family back, to our daughter, and I feel that's horribly unfair. He's really wallowing in his misery right now, and I still have sympathy for him, but he is burdening his daughter and painting me an absolute villain. He still hasn't told her about the new baby, and honestly, I'm a little at a loss as to what to do about it. Okay, let's go to an update. Hello, I've been reading all the comments on the original post and tried to answer as many of the questions as I could. The original post can be found through my user page. I wanted to write an update since my post seemed to raise some questions, and also to thank you for your engagement on the post. It has meant a lot to me. You have given me good advice, some really good things to think about, and some tough love and criticism I surely needed. Thank you so much. The divorce is in process, and I have not seen him in person for some 4 months at this point. He mostly keeps radio silence until it seems he has to unload some hurt on me. I've kept my contact to him to a minimum, only ever messaging him with things regarding our daughter or requesting him to react to official paperwork or to his electricity bills that I've transferred to him. Due to the circumstances in which we started this separation originally, I paid most of his living expenses, mainly since I have a steady job and get paid double his salary. He is still very much incapacitated by his mental health issues, and I wanted to alleviate some of the practical matters for him. Now that we're pulling everything apart, he has been, maybe purposefully, making this into a very slow and frustrating process. Currently, I still pay for his electricity, and he reimburses those bills for me at the end of each month. Sometimes he needs encouraging. Usually this leads to him messaging me all day, usually complaints on how I'm now raising our daughter, now that I've made him obsolete, his words, telling me to get a new dad to help me with the job as soon as possible. He seems to try very hard to push my buttons by saying things like, "It must be very hard for you to send your daughter to someone who you loathe and hate so much," and if I made the mistake of losing my temper, even for one curse word, he will turn immediately and tells me to calm down, stop spitting acid, and maybe we should continue our discussion when I'm not so wound up. I've mainly chosen to not engage in these conversations if when they start going off the rails. I have all of his outbursts in writing. I'm also currently under the impression that the co-worker is not interested in a relationship with him anymore, and all of those who asked, yes, the baby is his by his own word. He still has not told our daughter about any of it. I've chosen to give him an ultimatum on the matter. I'll bring it up one more time when we have our official meeting with our child welfare officer next month. That's the official route where we live, and if he still refuses, I'll take it on myself to tell our daughter the truth. So many of you have encouraged me to do this for her sake, and for the sake of our relationship, and I thank you for sharing your experiences with me. I have also contacted her school therapist and the curator and informed them of the issues she is facing now and the ones still to come. I'm hoping they'll offer her some scheduled help, since I know she is shy on telling me everything. She is the most important thing in my life, and as sorry as I am for her having to go through this essentially because of my choices, I refuse to take all the blame now, and I'm ready to shift it where it belongs. Personally, I'm a much happier person these days. I feel bursts of gratefulness and true happiness these days just by watching her eat dinner and talk to me about her day at the dinner table, in our clean and peaceful home. Even my houseplants are thriving, as silly as it sounds. I have finally opened up about all of this to some of my friends and my siblings, and they've all been super supportive. And my siblings were clearly shocked, but both did bring up that they are somehow not surprised it all went this way. They seem to have seen things a bit more clearly from afar, just like this community did. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I feel like my daughter and me are going to be just fine in the end. Honestly, I can't help but feel like Opie's being a little bit too courteous to this guy. He seems like an absolute prick. Let's look at some more comments. I actually laughed out loud at the part where he told Opie his affair partner was pregnant, but he can't believe Opie doesn't want to fix the marriage in the same breath. Like, buddy, do you hear yourself? Opie replies, honestly, at that point, I'd already made up my mind, and when I sat there and listened to his rant, I got the feeling that so much more was to come. When he finally told me about the pregnancy, I nearly laughed out loud myself. It was so absurd that it felt like the whole drama had been turned into a farce, like people would never believe me if I told the whole story. And with that reaction, I realised that I really was mentally in a better place, one foot out the door, and not ever going back. This was not my crap show to deal with anymore. Another commenter says, stop paying the electricity bill. Stop being sympathetic or empathetic with him. Do not engage. You need to do this for yourself. You owe that to yourself. Opie replies, my friends have also told me to just drop the electricity contract from my plan and have him figure it out. Logically, I know it takes one call for him to make a new contract. He gives me excuses I know are false, but since I also know how passive his mental health issues have made him, and how insurmountable small things can become, I find it so difficult to do this and go back on my word. There is also the fear how making our currently bad relationship even worse will inevitably reflect on our daughter and getting through all the legalities. I can't wait until it's all done and dusted. Okay, now for the final update so far. Hello Reddit, it has been months since my original post and update. People were very nice to me and offered me really good advice, and lots of emotional support and needed criticism. I took a lot of it to heart and made good progress for my daughter and myself. I finally separated the rest of our finances, stopped paying his bills, and made official agreements on child support and custody, which remained shared for now, as he went back on his word to give it to me uncontested. He did not agree to sign an official visitation agreement because he can't commit to it right now. I offered him every other weekend and half of all holidays. He has started to meet our daughter more often though, since nowadays she actually visits him on her own free will. It seems that their relationship has gotten a bit better lately, which I'm of course happy about. He has been absolutely terrible towards me though. He started a campaign of passive-aggressive texting after I asked him to be civil. Now every message is overly syrupy and filled with overflowing apologies. I ignored this until he decided to talk to me face to face when we went to sign the agreements. He told me his therapist told him to talk to me for closure and speak his mind, so he did. He once again just explained to me how hard the last year has been and how I tore the marriage apart, how he was not ready to accept this divorce and never will be, how nothing in his current life is what he wanted or asked for, and considers it an insult if I congratulated him over the upcoming baby, etc. This felt really off, considering he just moved in with her affair partner. He originally tried to hide this too and was evasive, but of course our daughter found out the next time she visited and also told me. I know it's pointless, but I feel I needed to say something too, so I told him that he completely continues to ignore all my pain and the mental work I had to do over this whole thing, and I can't help the fact that my love died in the process. He says I didn't even try. He said even my parents were more supportive of him, because they had exchanged pleasantries having met briefly a few weeks prior. His co-workers were more supportive than me. I told him to look in the mirror, and that his little passive-aggressive game was so obvious. Clearly it hit home because he stopped immediately after. He has also been snooping over my dating life through our daughter, and is very jealous, says so, and gets very verbally aggressive over it. Now, the thing that brought me back to you here tonight is that despite my life having turned so much better in the last few months, and me and my daughter have been happier than in a long while, I fell into an unexpected hole today. He was supposed to have her over this weekend, but ended up cancelling. The reason he gave me was different than what he gave our daughter, so I knew he lied to someone. Yesterday he blew up on me over texts that originally started as the discussion over our daughter's visits. He started the same old song of me being so petty over such a minor thing as his affair that was apparently not even a real affair at first. He wrote that my parents were right about me being too sensitive. He knows how low of a blow this is, since he has been supporting me through my issues, with my parents invalidating all of my gripes my whole life with "you are too sensitive." I told him how low that was, and that he does not get to quantify my pain, and he totally lost his marbles to the point where I had to stop reading his messages because I was afraid I would start to cry in the office. This morning our daughter runs to me crying happy tears and jumping of joy. Her father had sent her pictures of the newly born little sister. I congratulated the new official older sister, and we gushed over the pictures a little. Throughout the day my mood has just been awful. I've gotten messages from my family asking how I am, because the daughter of course told everyone, which is totally okay, but it started to weigh on me. I've been tired and easily irritated. All of a sudden I felt like I had no one to talk to, no one who would really understand, someone unbiased, an adult to talk to. Those have been my hardest moments in all of this. I lost my best friend when we fell apart, and whenever I feel like I really need to open up and spill my heart, it reminds me of how alone I feel. Is it a normal reaction? I've been fine and very emotionally cut off from him for so long, and somehow the birth of this baby sent me into this sudden nosedive today. I felt like I needed to tell all of this in my lowest point in a long while, so thank you for reading. If I failed at linking my previous posts here, please look into my profile. They are my only posts. Thank you, and happy upcoming holiday season, everyone. Okie dokie, folks, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, honestly, completely understandable I'd be spiraling a bit here. I mean, the child of your husband's affair has just come out, bringing all of those emotions straight back up to the surface. What do you guys think about this one? Any advice for OP? Let me know down in the comments. Anyway, let's go to the next story. Okay, this one's from the same subreddit. It was written by user Mountain Impress, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to accept my husband's gift because he thinks I'm vain and materialistic? I'm 30 female and very interested in skincare, fashion, makeup, and other feminine things. I work hard to afford the things that I want. I'm not very pretty, but I'm well put together, and many of my friends compliment me on my outfit or other things I'm proud of. It's a hobby I enjoy. My husband, S, 27, has always been my biggest supporter. He would listen to me, and he's always surprising me with gifts of things that I've been talking about or what I've expressed interest in. I'm always appreciative of his incredibly thoughtful gifts, and I love them. A friend of S contacted me and told me that I should stop being materialistic and making my husband buy things for me. She said he complained about it a lot. I didn't want to accuse S without proof, and I looked through his phone. We have open phones, but I've never wanted to look through his before. I found countless messages of him calling me vain, materialistic, obsessed with my looks, picky. He also commented that I'm not even pretty enough to be that obsessed with myself. He was complaining to friends, acquaintances, and people who barely know me. It was so hurtful that I cried for hours. But I love my husband, and I don't want him to think I'm vain or materialistic. I gave away what I could and resolved to stop purchasing things and stop talking to him about it. S gave me a perfume discovery set because I had recently gained an interest in perfume. I thanked him but said I didn't need it. He was confused and asked what was wrong with it. I told him that it was a lovely gift, but I didn't need more perfume. I said I didn't want to be materialistic or vain. S said that he had seen my textbook on perfume and that I had bookmarked things and he knew that I was interested in it. He was teary-eyed and kept asking what was wrong with his gift and why I didn't like it. He has been very distressed since. Am I the a-hole? Let's check the comments. Not the a-hole. Okay sis, now you need to have the very open conversation. Show him the text from S, then ask him to open his phone and show him all of his messages. Tell him that it is unconscionable that he would say these things to everyone without ever once expressing it to you. It's devastatingly hurtful, especially after he's been so encouraging towards you. In fact, I'd screenshot his messages at this point and send them to yourself. Just a small sampling. Show them to him and tell him only after S called you to call you out on your behaviour did you look through his phone. Honestly sis, I'd be absolutely devastated too, and I have a thick skin. It's the two-facedness and how far and wide he spread his nastiness that is so devastating. It's bad enough that he said you aren't good looking. It's one thing to know in our hearts we aren't the most attractive, but to hear it from our spouse. But to discover he's saying it to other people is so incredibly hurtful. I'm so sorry. Fundamentally, the backstabbing snake is who he is as a person. I'm so very sorry. Not the a-hole. Distressed my ass. Frankly, you should just tell him to look at his phone if he asks you why you don't want his gifts. Probably you're above his level, in personality, character, and appearance, so he was disparaging you to people to try to make himself look better by bringing you down, while also keeping people away from you, those that could take you from him in his petty mind. The terrible thing is that he probably does actually like your hobbies and interests, as not only is it feminine, but it enables him to give you things, in his mind, in exchange for affection, to secure it, as he doesn't offer much else. So he's distressed as without things he can't offer a personality or something else to make him worth a relationship. It's probably not true to my harsh take, but guys who get into relationships with women they hate for their vanity and materialism while enabling it, like gifts, listening and encouraging it, tend to not be worth the time. Wow, yeah, pretty brutally upfront there from some of those comments. Let's go to the update. I tried to post on the other sub, but there was an error. My husband S kept asking me what exactly I didn't like about his gift and tried to narrow why I didn't accept it. I told him that his friend messaged me about how I was materialistic and forced S to buy me things. He looked furious. I said that I'd looked at his phone and saw that he thought I was vain and materialistic and that I was trying to change that. He looked even more mad and I was tearing up at that point. Then he hugged me and apologized. He said he didn't think I was materialistic or vain. He thought my love for my hobbies was cute and inspiring. He loved getting me gifts because I was appreciative and he liked seeing me in things he got me. I asked why he would say those things if he actually didn't think I was materialistic or vain or self-obsessed. He hugged me tighter and made me promise to still love and stay with him. Then he said that he was already fighting for my attention and affection with my friends, family, and my job. He wasn't going to compete with others too. He pulled out his phone and we read his messages together. When I'd first read them, I could barely read them because I was so heartbroken, but as we read them together, I realized that he started the complaining and the other person would start calling me things, and they would walk away with a terrible opinion of me. I started crying again, and he apologized and said he never meant it, and the other people would have already thought people like me were vain and shallow. In the texts, S also insinuated that only he could get me proper gifts. It's true that he's the one person whose gifts were always incredible, but that's because he was very in tune with what I would want, even more than me. I still appreciate other things. I keep every card I've ever gotten, and I still have the wrapper of a candy my childhood friend gave me. In the text, it seems like I'm a shallow, picky person that has high standards only he can reach. I asked him not to talk about me like that anymore. He immediately said yes. He said that he would replenish what I'd given away, and if I tried to reject it, he would see it as spurning his affection. He apologized again and said he never wanted to hurt me. Okay guys, and that's the end of that one. So it turns out that last comment I read was pretty right actually. It was almost like he was trying to get rid of competition for attention at the expense of her character, I guess. I don't know, maybe I read into that wrong. Opie doesn't really word it very well. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. My husband has ruined both our lives by asking me to double up his lunch serving for work. I'm on a throwaway because I still haven't fully decided on divorce, but I'm 95% sure on it. Me, female 26, and my husband, 25, and I have been married for almost 2 years and have a 6-month-old baby. I work part-time only to supplement our income and to pay for the legal process of getting him documented. We are very fortunate that it seems it may be an easy process of maybe 2 years max for his residency, but now I'm going to cancel everything and ask for a divorce. My routine used to be I wake up 1.5 hours before him in the morning and make him lunch and pack everything for him for work and have his breakfast, coffee and clothes ready for him to wake up, eat, get dressed and head out within 30 minutes. He used to be satisfied with what I packed him of freshly made chicken in either honey buffalo, lemon pepper and salad, or some sort of chicken wrap, etc. Pure healthy food. I did this because I wanted to make his life easier and show him I cared and love him, and I've done this since we first moved in together more than 3 years ago. Well, recently I've had to start including dinner leftovers because he started asking for more food, that he was still hungry afterwards, which I thought it was odd because no matter if I work or not, he always comes home to prepare food, so even if he wasn't full, he'd be okay. But I explained it off with maybe he's bulking or something. So I started including what I normally take to work, which has caused me to either go without lunch and having to wait till after work, or be late for work because I have to wait till the food is ready, and take some because I'm breastfeeding, and can't miss eating every time. I'll leave food going such as in a crock pot or low heat, depending how long after I leave he gets home. Well, last week when I was packing his lunch, I found an unrecognized second fork in his lunchbox and was thrown off, so I asked and he said he found it in the kitchen of his work and brought it home. Odd why he didn't just leave it. I'd noticed small changes in him that I gaslighted myself into. I'm being insecure because I just had a baby, but this made the pit of my stomach churn. So a few days later, I decided to go to his work during lunch to surprise him with dessert, and for him to see the baby. Well, that was when I found out why he wanted more food. His co-worker, he told me no longer worked there, who I'd caught him talking too friendly to, and I told him it bothered me and I had him removed from everything and block on WhatsApp, not only still worked there, but was eating the lunch I freshly prepared for him, and he was eating the leftovers. I didn't cause a scene. Instead, I took pictures and added it to my folder of everything he's done before, from simple hearting other girls' stories and telling me he didn't, to naked pictures of a co-worker from a previous job he got fired from because of her. I drove home crying and packed my things when I got home. I took the bassinet and anything I'd need for the baby and my essentials, and went to my sisters and brothers-in-laws and told them everything, and even showed him our conversation from WhatsApp, where he told me she no longer worked there. I normally text him throughout the day, so he started texting me and calling me to see if I was okay and what was for dinner. He was almost off. Is everything okay? And then he got to the house an hour earlier than usual, which also has me question if he's been lying about what time he gets off too, and saw mine and the baby's things gone, and my letter that he had 7 days to leave my house. My mum gave it to me when I was 20, and that he can communicate with my mother to see the baby when I'm at work or whenever he wants to see her. Just let her know and I'll drop off the baby with her. I, for the time being, don't want anything to do with him, and I left the printed photos of them eating lunch laughing together under the letter. Later that night, when I decided I no longer wanted anything to do with him, I informed the lawyer. We had a group WhatsApp chat with me and him, the lawyer, the paralegal, and my brother-in-law, our co-sponsor, that I no longer was going to need his services, and then messaged the lawyer privately to ask if I could maybe move our contract and the money I've paid for so far over to his divorce and family practice. He said unfortunately no, there's some clause or something that if we decide to no longer pursue the case, we lose money we've invested, and also that his immigration practice is a partnership with different people than his family one, but he would just leave our case open till we get a response for our next appointment from the government, and if we haven't worked things out by then he will cancel everything. Well, this caused him to go insane, because now if he doesn't get papers, he has to choose between his daughter and parents, to either risk never seeing his parents and family again, or never seeing his daughter again if he goes over there. He's begging me to the point I blocked him on everything. He's come to my brother-in-law's house and been told to leave or we're calling the police. Then he later came back drunk with his buddies, who then were scared off by my brother-in-law and his shotgun. I feel so lost, broken, and depressed. I also have security at work to make sure he doesn't show up at my office. My sister tells me to leave him, but not to divorce so he can never get with anyone else and get papers, but I can't do that to him. I've gone back home, only to check on the house and see if he's gone. I'm still staying with my sister. And surprisingly, there's no damage to anything, and his things, only, are gone. So at least I feel a little relief in that. I'm not looking for advice. I know I'm not going back. There's no longer any trust. My mental health wouldn't be safe in that relationship, and I know I can't have my daughter grow up with that kind of relationship being an example. I just needed to put this out there in order for it to solidify in my brain and to be able to reflect that this is now a pattern, and he's gone beyond disrespecting me by now also making me make her food. I've been budgeting trying to make things last, sometimes eating less than I want to or skipping meals if possible. If a meal was heavier of carbs, I'd skip it since I should have enough for my milk supply, all to be able to pay bills, lawyer, his gym membership and supplements. I lose out on rest and sleep because I ensure laundry in the house is kept spotless while the baby sleeps. I've basically gone from an independent, educated career woman to a 1950s housewife with a job and school, all because I blindly fell for this man. When I say I feel stupid, that's an understatement. Edit. Some things I want to clarify I've been seeing in the comments. No, my sister isn't pushing me to stay in a relationship with him. She's telling me not to divorce him so that he can't just go find another woman to marry and use for the green card. No, I'm not taking anything from him that wasn't mine before we got married. Before me, he lived in a house with 7 other men sharing a bedroom with a bunk bed, and he drove a 2000 Buick he had to unplug from the battery in order to use again. That car got scrapped after the electrical went out. The car he is using is my car I got in high school that got me through high school part-time and seasonal jobs and community college. Also, my mum isn't dead. She gave me my childhood home because I was going to college, and it's a 10-minute commute from the college. She gave it to me because I'm the last of the kids. All my brothers and sisters are at least 10 years older, and aside from my sister who's helping me, they all live in different states. He left home with a motorcycle he's customizing, his gaming systems, clothes, and the guest bedroom TV, which was the only TV that was not mounted. Also, I'm not keeping his daughter from him. I just personally don't want to see him, because I know he'll try to give me a ton of excuses and try to make me understand him. He can speak to my sister or mum, and they'll supervise him to see his daughter whenever he wants to. There is no battle in that. I don't think he's a bad father, but I just don't think my relationship with him is the example I want to give my daughter. Yes, I am Mexican too. My dad came to the States and then later brought my mum and 2 brothers and 2 sisters. It took a decade to see each other again, which is why I'm so apart from my siblings and the only one born here. Let's look at the comments. Do not let anyone blame you for the green card issues he's going to face now. He made the decision to cheat on you despite knowing that your marriage was what was getting him his green card in the first place. He made this mess, not you. Now he's the one who has to clean it up. You as a breastfeeding mother should never be missing or reducing your food. Don't take sister's advice and stay married. What if you meet someone new? I can't believe he thought not being in work and giving food to someone else was okay when you were breastfeeding. Change the locks. I'm glad you're not seeking advice because you're probably doing everything that this community would suggest. Moral of the story to your soon-to-be ex, don't crap where you eat. Opie then gives more context and replies to some comments. I've been told by my sister to inform everyone that this was my first actual long-term relationship. She says that may give people a clue as to why I was so naive. It was also very early in the relationship and we weren't living together yet. I met him when I was travelling around to local jobs where it was known immigrants worked to post and informed them of local resources to help them with medical insurances, free clinics and ESL programs for children and adults. I was working for a seasonal daycare program for agricultural workers. Someone asks, "How are you going without food if you both work and own your own home?" Opie says, "He makes below minimum wage due to undocumentation. I work part-time minimum wage because I can't be away from the baby due to breastfeeding. He also sends money to provide for his parents and younger siblings." One comment asks, "Why did putting more food in his lunch cause budgeting issues?" Opie says, "I was budgeting in order to be able to save money for the lawyer expenses, but now that I look back, it was basically him paying bills and pocketing the leftover for gym and supplements, plus tools and paints, and whatever, while my paycheck was going to groceries, his family in Mexico, and diapers. And yes, I feel really stupid, naive, and blind." One comment asks, "What would get you more child support? Him getting a green card and permanent job here, or not? Basically, when should you divorce?" Opie replies, "This may be the numbness in me talking at the moment, but I don't need his money. He can contribute by buying her diapers, clothes, and whatever necessities. Now that I'm not catering to him, I can leave my part-time paper-pushing job and find a good daycare for my daughter and go back to teaching. I may also just sell my second car and lower my car payment. Full-time job and one less person in my home also means lower utilities, since it's less utilities being used at home. No mortgage, no stupid expenses on random gym crap and $40 memberships. Just protein, creatine and supplements were at least $150 a month, not to mention whatever he was doing to that junk motorcycle. My sister and mum have talked me through finances, and my brother-in-law said I could honestly keep my part-time job, get on government benefits, and spend more time with my daughter, but I think mentally I need to go back to teaching, and feel the independence of being self-reliant again. Food stamps feels like it's just one thing he'll throw in my face. I don't know if I'm trying to hold on to what little bit of pride I have left, or it's just the anger I have inside, that I want to show him and his chick I'm better without him. If I continue the process, I'll be legally and financially responsible for him for years to come. Supervised visits is due to him never being more than 3 hours, aka one bottle feed, alone with the baby. Also, the fear of him taking my child to another country now that he's lost everything here, and he may just decide to go back to Mexico, a place where he can't come back unless he risks his life again, is very real. About the other woman. I don't know, she doesn't have anything to offer. She doesn't have a legal status either because she overstayed her visa to my understanding from a co-worker of his I went to school with. According to her, that woman is younger, no legal status or education, no English, and she's already gotten in trouble for being inappropriate in the workplace before, and if there is proof that they are being inappropriate, that will be a strike against him and firing against her. Apparently she likes to call herself one of the guys because she's a woman who works in a male-dominated job and degrades women making jokes with the men. Okay, on to an update. Sorry it's been a while since I updated anyone. I've been busy sorting out my life, and this was supposed to be a throwaway, so I didn't expect it to blow up the way it did, much less anyone to actually want updates. I guess I'll start with the most asked question, which was if I left him. Yes, I also got a full checkup and indeed had an infection I was lucky I could treat and be good without any further issues. This also confirmed his unfaithfulness because, as I mentioned, I had a baby not long ago, and during the whole pregnancy they checked me for everything, and they'd done a full panel when I was 3 months postpartum because I got a UTI, and my doctor wanted to ensure it was only that. Did I talk to him to get his side of the story? Yes, when I went to tell him about the infection, I allowed him to speak his mind about everything. I only asked him for the truth, as there wasn't anything else for him to ruin. It was completely over at this point. And here's a basic TLDR. He never meant to hurt me. He loves his daughter and me. He enjoyed the attention. It was something new and exciting. It took his mind off the stress of bills, kid, my emotional state, and the general routine of his life. Life had gotten boring and she entertained him. I'm sorry that your wife organised your previously chaotic life. That's about what I believe to be true out of the couple of hours of begging, excuses, gaslighting, and even blaming. The rest was, the infection is a common one that happens because of cow crap everywhere and because he goes out and pees outside without washing his hands or something. She doesn't like men, she was just one of the guys. Come on, really? I only gave her lunch that day. It was just one time that she forgot her lunch and she asked me because she saw I had 2 lunches. He would never stand so low to break his family. Why would I make such assumptions? Oh, so you knew what you were doing. Once I showed him my chart with my results and explained how it's not a normal infection like E. coli that you can get because of poop, and it was an actual transmissible infection. I also explained that I hadn't slept with anyone since we met, and how my doctor explained that if I would have any kind of transmissible diseases, I would have known during my pregnancy, because not only is it common practice to test for all risks, but my high-risk pregnancy and preterm labour, she tested for all kinds of things to see if she could find the cause of issues and afterward to find the cause of preterm labour. He admitted it shortly after that, and he listened to me and saw my doctor's note. I'll add I have the best OBGYN, and she was amazing in listening to me and allowing me to cry, and gave me not only support during that moment, with even having a nurse take my daughter out for me to cry, but also printed me information and ensured me that a simple medicine will make it all go away, and I should not see any more issues. Anyhow, he's staying at the dairy at some trailer the owner let him borrow, and for those who thought she would take him in, turns out she's engaged and she's about to start her wedding and do an adjustment of status and get her papers. Anyways, I'm back to living on my own. My baby is doing great. I have another office job lined up for January, and I have a few universities I've applied to. I'm currently going to community college online, but if I get into a uni, I think I'll move out of this town. My grandma said she would move with me to help me. Some days are long like today. It's late at night and I can't sleep because I miss him, but I've been entertaining myself, getting rid of the stuff in my home to start a new slate and organise everything. I won't lie and say I'm doing great. On my days off I don't get out of bed. My house is clean, but my bedroom has my laundry basket over full, and I brought out the guest blankets and pillows to use. People at work have noticed a slowed pace in my work, and I was offered time off, but I denied it. Although now that somehow the rumour of what happened has reached my job, I may take it. Thank you for all the support, everyone. Although I had a few people call me names and talk badly to me in my messages, I appreciate the other people who commented nice things and showed me support. Wow, so it turns out he was actually sleeping with the other woman as well. Man, that's rough to find out, especially with a newborn. Opie seems pretty level-headed though. Hopefully she can pick herself up after this. Let's go to another update. I woke up to husband's call. He apologised again. I'm still not budging. But he told me he was talking to some guys at work about free clinics or where they go when they're sick. And it turns out that the same woman has been sleeping with a few from there. I don't know if around the same time, but one of them told my husband where to get treated for free because he got it from her too. In his apology, which sounded more sincere this time, but I believe it's worse because it's only after he realised he wasn't special to her, just another one of the guys she slept with. But I say sincere because he didn't have many excuses. Instead, he seemed to hold himself accountable by saying he'd won the lottery and messed up. He begged for a second chance because he doesn't know what came over him. He says he hates coming home to an empty trailer. He misses seeing his daughter the moment after work. What choked me up was when he said he used to feel more exhausted when he used to come home to us because the baby would be excited to see him and would cry to be held by him. And during the week I would often leave the same easy meals made for him so he could eat while I left to work, and he started to feel tired of it. It was a boring routine of same foods during the week, coming home and having to watch the baby so I could go to work. That solidified to me that I don't ever want to find another relationship, much less go back to him. The routine I worked hard to put my family together was a chore to him. I literally dealt with a fussy, tired child till he got home, so she would mostly sleep, and he would only need a single bottle for her, but even that was too hard. He said he would give up the world just to be back into his routine because now he comes home to an empty trailer where it's just a bed and a fold-out table. He hasn't eaten his diet because he doesn't have time to prep. He started spending money on lunch because he doesn't have food made for him. He says he misses the baby so much that he now cries when he goes home. I told him I don't know what to tell him about that, but if he wanted to see the baby when I go to work, he can go see her at my mum's, who now babysits for me. Knowing my mum, she makes food and she would never deny him food, so he can go over there and eat and be with the baby after work. But I had to go. I couldn't have talked anymore. When I tell you all I've never cried so hard in my life, it's an understatement. It doesn't help it's raining today. I think I'm calling into work today and tomorrow, talking to my boss about taking those days. Yeah, it sounds like the husband's not really missing her for the right reasons. Sounds like he's only missing the comfortability of his old lifestyle. Opie adds an edit. I was logging off for a while, but I figured I'd update everyone to let you know she found my home and started harassing me now. I guess somehow her fiancé found out and she thinks it was because of me. I feel like things are just going from bad to worse. I had to leave my car in my mum's garage and borrow my nephew's car, which my neighbour let me park in her driveway because she threatened to ruin my car like I ruined her relationship, which isn't just hypothetical, but also ironic. Oh god, now the affair partner's going after her. Geez, give her a break. Anyway, Opie answers some final comments. What have you decided regarding legal aspects of this, i.e. green card? I don't want to make any legal decisions at the moment. I'm barely getting through leaving him. I don't want to also put on being too responsible for my daughter to lose her dad because of his stupidity. Someone cautions her to not overly listen to Reddit here because this is a decision with huge ramifications. She should just do what feels right for her and her child. Opie replies, I feel like there's no way out without severe damage. I feel like I'm in that bridge game from Squid Game, except all tiles break at any decision just to have some lesser consequences than the others. I currently don't want to make any decisions because I feel safe in limbo at the moment because even though my logical reasoning understands if he gets deported, it's going to be from his decision, my emotional reasoning feels responsible for it. I don't want him back. The betrayal and his dishonesty has broken any trust I could ever have, and I don't think it would be good for my mental health to continue a relationship like that. I grew up seeing my mum always asking and wondering if my stepfather was cheating or not, to the point my mum neglected us because she was so busy ensuring her husband wasn't cheating. It turned a once loving, caring, involved mother into a toxic person who would take her daughters out at 3 a.m. to go to shady neighbourhoods to see if her husband's car was outside someone's house. I don't want that for myself or daughter. I saw cheating ruin my mother without her ever being unfaithful. I've seen it destroy my sister's first engagement. I've seen my brothers bleed from aggressive cheating, women who attack them for wanting to take their kids from toxic environments with drugs and other men. Cheating is something I don't want any involvement in, and I've seen what it does to people. But I also have that responsibility that I want my daughter to have her dad. So in the meantime, I'm having that distance because I know what is better for her, and I'm trying my best to stick to the logical conclusion, not the emotional one. No matter how much I miss him, but I tell myself I don't miss this person talking to me. I miss the person who made me feel safe, loved and cared for. And even then, I'm starting to look back and realize a lot of it was me in a delusional state, thinking that him hugging me when I asked, me going to him for kisses, me cuddling to him was all love. I felt safe with him, not because he made me feel safe, but because I thought I was. But looking back, it's embarrassing to say I was the one who did a lot of the instigating of affection. Maybe some of the people who messaged me saying I was a psycho were onto something. I'm starting to feel like maybe I was in some delusional state and he was just using me. Alrighty, and we've reached the end of that one, guys. Man, what a tragic conclusion for OP to come to there. I can't imagine how hard it must be going through something like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this one down in the comments. My husband has a favourite child and it has destroyed our family. This is a long read. If you can get through it, please give any advice you can. I want to start by saying my husband is a good man. He provides a very comfortable life for me and our children. He has never been abusive or manipulative. He's never kept secrets or cheated. But he has one huge flaw. He has a favourite child. We have 3 teenage sons. They are Mason, 18, Kyle, 15, and Sean, 13. Our youngest son, Sean, is my husband's favourite. He knows this, I know this, and what really kills me is that our children know it. It wasn't always like this. He used to be equally loving to all of our boys, but when Sean was 5 years old, he got pneumonia and was dangerously close to death. It was obviously an extremely tough time for my husband and I, and through the entire hospital stay, Sean always wanted his dad above anyone else. It bonded them. Ever since then, my husband has always favoured and spoiled Sean to the detriment of his relationships with Mason and Kyle. The 2 older boys noticed as they got older, and were understandably hurt that their father always favoured Sean. I had several conversations with my husband throughout the years about how he needs to realise he has 3 sons, not just one. He always listened and would make an effort to be more involved with Mason and Kyle, but it never lasted. He'd always go back to being super dad to Sean. This all came to a head today when Kyle's school had an awards ceremony that Kyle would be presented an award at. This is of course a virtual event as COVID is still an issue, and the boys are doing online distance learning. Essentially, the event was just a large group video call where the kids would be recognised for their academic achievements, and there was a raffle for several prizes. Kyle was excited because one of the prizes was a game system he wanted. Parents were invited to join in on their own computer and get an extra entry for raffle prizes on behalf of their children. I wasn't going to be able to make it as I had work, but I told my husband to just drop in and watch them read Kyle's name and stick around so Kyle could just have a slightly better chance at getting the prize he wanted. Again, this was a virtual event. All he had to do was go to the website and sit there for less than half an hour. School events like this, even pre-COVID, were always more my thing. My husband almost never went to these things as he was usually working, but of course there was a higher chance of him showing up for one of Sean's events. But he's working mostly from home, and he wasn't even going to be on the clock at the time of this event. He said he'd do it. On the day of the event, I reminded him before I left for work to make sure he showed up. I sent him the invite link again while I was at work just to be sure he had it, and he assured me he'd be there. Well, the event came and went. Kyle was in his room on his own laptop for the event, and my husband never joined the group call. I was busy at work, so I couldn't message him back until almost an hour after the event ended. I asked him how it went. He said he was trying to join, but the link didn't work. I asked what did he mean he was trying to join now when the event was an hour ago. He replied, "Oh, I thought you said it was now." I saw red. He missed the event because he got the time wrong, after I told him several times what time and exactly how to join. All he had to do was click the link at the right time. I was furious, but I wanted to wait until I got home to talk to him. So I get home and see our oldest son Mason's car in our driveway. He does not live with us anymore. He's in college and has his own apartment. I walk inside and Sean is in the living room looking upset. I ask him what's wrong and he says the other boys are fighting with Dad. I asked what happened and he said he doesn't know, just that Kyle got really mad and called Mason when he told Kyle that he and my husband went to get frozen yogurt earlier. I asked what time they went and he tells me it was 10 minutes before Kyle's event. He missed the event because he chose to take Sean to get frozen yogurt. I learned later that Sean was begging him and my husband, as usual, caved and took him. At that moment, Mason, Kyle and my husband all come down the stairs. They're yelling and Mason has a duffel bag with Kyle's things. I asked what is happening and Mason says he's taking Kyle with him to stay at his apartment for a while. I told him Kyle can stay the night, but he can't just move in with him. My husband said that Kyle is not leaving and he needs to talk to him privately, but Mason blew up on him. He said everyone knows Sean is his favourite and he couldn't tell Sean to wait 30 minutes before taking him to get yogurt. I told Mason I understood his anger, but that we all needed to sit down and talk. Kyle joins in and says that he's tired of his dad always choosing Sean over the two of them, and he wants to stay with Mason. My husband was apologising and saying he doesn't choose Sean over them, he just made a mistake. Mason challenges my husband, saying, "You always just make mistakes that leave me and Kyle on the back burner," and told him to try to remember the last time he did something with either he or Kyle alone. My husband listed 2 events. Mason reminded him Sean tagged along for both. My husband said they're family and of course he's allowed to go with. Kyle shouted back that my husband has taken out-of-town trips with just he and Sean 3 times in the last year and a half, and he was right. Sean got visibly upset at this point. Mason said he was sorry and that this wasn't about anything he did wrong, that it was their dad's fault, not his. Sean went upstairs to his room. My husband started after him, and Mason said, "See? You've got 3 upset sons and you still run off to coddle Sean." My husband said that's not true, he's just more sensitive than the other boys. Mason told him he wants so badly for Sean to be his only son so that he can have his wish. He said not to call or text him or Kyle anymore, and that they don't have a dad anymore. Kyle added, "You already act like we don't exist anyway." My husband's face dropped. The way he was neglecting our 2 older boys finally hit him. I was a sobbing mess. I could see the hurt in both my sons' eyes. I told them to stay so we could talk and find a solution. Kyle begged me to just let him leave, saying he didn't want to be in the house anymore. Mason hugged me and assured me he'd make sure Kyle got his schoolwork done and he'd call me tomorrow. I let them go. As much as I want Kyle here, I know he needs time away from my husband. My husband went to the kitchen and cried. He's never been an emotional man, but the reality of our two older boys wanting to go no contact with him finally knocked some sense into him. I wanted to yell and scream at him. I told him for years that he needed to stop favouring one child. All he had to do was show up one goddamn time for Kyle. I'm so angry. Instead, I told my husband that I love him and I know he's hurting, so I'm not going to yell at him. But I told him I love my children more, and that if he didn't fix things with his boys and start treating them equally from this moment forward, I would be divorcing him. He just said, I don't want to lose my family. He started to get up saying he should make sure Sean was okay. I told him I would check on Sean for once, and he needed to think of his other sons. I admit I was passive-aggressive, but my blood was boiling, and I was trying my best not to tear my husband down any more than my son's parting words had. I spent the next hour consoling Sean and reassuring him that his brothers don't hate him, and that their issue is with my husband, not him. He said they won't text him back, and I said he needs to give them time. I'm emotionally exhausted. I don't know what to do. My husband is sleeping in the guest room tonight. We've never not slept in the same bed, unless one of us is out of town for one reason or another. Is it worth divorcing my husband over if he doesn't fix it? This is the only big issue I've ever had in our marriage, but he broke my children's hearts, and even if we do stay together, I don't know if I can ever forgive him for that. I feel like a failure as a mother for not being more assertive with my husband and not interfering throughout all these years. I also feel like it may be too late for him to make things right at this point. What do I do? What can I do? Let's go to the comments. I wish I had some great advice, but I read this whole thing and I wanted to say that I'm sorry. I can only hope that your husband had finally learned his lesson. He really might have been unaware of how bad it was. I think the best thing is to give it time and find out how you're feeling about his effort, or lack of. I hope he makes some big changes. Hang in there. Opie replies, Thank you for taking the time to read the entire post. I guess I'm just scared that he won't step up and fix it, but I guess you're right. All I can do is wait and see how he handles that. I know that this is his issue to fix, but knowing how hurt my children are kills me. They're such good kids. They don't deserve to feel this way. Light a fire under your husband's ass. Don't let things settle. It's easy to do. Don't let him get relaxed like things will just blow over either. Get that man doing good because you know he can. I hope his eyes are open to the truth so you don't have to. Opie says, Things will definitely not just blow over. Our two oldest hit their breaking point. We both saw that tonight. I think I'll give it a day or two to see what he comes up with on his own. I really do want this to be something he fixes on his own without being forced to. I think he will. As crazy as it sounds given what I just wrote in my post, I do have faith that he really does love our boys enough to not let this be the end of his relationship with them. I'm seeing a lot of comments about marriage cancelling. I guess this is something I can look into on my own while he figures out what to do on his end. Thank you for the advice. Right now, just be there for your sons, all of them, when they need you. As for the relationship between your two eldest and their father, the ball is in Mason and Kyle's court. If they decide to try to mend the relationship with their father, he needs to make every effort to be involved in their life. It's really important that it's not forced upon them though. There is a good chance it will have a negative effect and only make things worse. You might also want to try and take your 3 sons out to dinner like once every week or two without your husband. This will allow your 2 oldest to reconnect with the youngest without the trigger of their dad around. Marriage cancelling though, get it. Opie replies, I agree with you and I don't want to push them or force them to interact with him. This is why I let Kyle go with Mason. I want him here, but I know right now he needs space. I will reassure Mason tomorrow when he calls that I don't want to force either of them to just push this aside. They have every right to be upset. I know they don't hold it against Sean. Mason apologized and assured Sean they weren't mad at him. Sean was still upset and I comforted him myself before he finally fell asleep. I will continue to reassure him and will check in with the boys tomorrow and ask them if they can just text him back, telling him they don't blame him. Only if they want to, of course, but I truly think they will. Mason and Kyle have always been closer, but they've never excluded Sean or treated him any different. I know they love their brother. Their anger really was, rightfully, directed at their father. Now for an update. I posted a few weeks ago about an issue with my family, and there were a decent amount of people who gave great advice and reassurance on what I was already feeling. I'm so incredibly happy to say that this is a good update. Great even. First, regarding my sons, Mason called me the next day as he promised and said Kyle was settling in fine. I asked how they felt about Sean, and Mason said that he and Kyle talked last night, and while they don't necessarily blame Sean, that it's still not hard to be slightly angry at him, especially because we can all see that Sean does realise he's the favourite and leans into it. In the end, both boys texted Sean that they weren't mad, but they needed time away to cool off. Sean was of course sad, but I did get through to him that sometimes people need space. A couple days later, I dropped Sean off at Mason's apartment, and the boys had a movie and game night. I'm not sure what was said, but Sean came back much happier, and his brothers are texting him back again. I knew they'd be okay, but I was glad that Mason and Kyle are mature and kind-hearted enough to not hold onto their anger towards Sean. Regarding my husband, I'll admit I was weak, and I caved the night of the incident. I went to the guest room, and my husband was still awake and on his laptop. I asked what he was doing, and he showed me the screen. He was searching for therapists. I never brought this up as a suggestion. He did it on his own. I asked why he was looking for a therapist, and he said because he feels like he's only going to get one chance to make things right with the boys, and he wanted a professional to tell him the best way to do so. It lifted so much of my fears and anxiety about how he felt. I cried and I told him to come back to our room. He took the next day off of work. In our entire 22 years of marriage, he has called out of work less than 5 times. He talked to 3 different therapists for roughly an hour each before deciding he liked the second one best. He's an older man with adult children, and my husband said he felt like the therapist could relate to him and understand his situation best. I was so proud of him. His therapist suggested sending a short apology and promise of working on himself. Both his therapist and myself read the text, but did not change or influence him in any way. The words are entirely his own. He wrote, "I'm sorry. I messed up. For years I messed up. I hate that I let it get to this point, and I hate that I hurt you both so badly. I love you. I will always love you, and I know you may not want to talk to me right now, but I've just started therapy, and I hope in time that you boys will forgive me and give me a chance to be better for both of you. There is so much more I want to say, but I would like to say it in person. You can always call me, text me, or come home when you're ready to talk. Anytime. I will drop whatever I'm doing when you're ready to talk. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I love you boys. Love, Dad." Kyle called me a couple hours after my husband sent them the text and asked me to come over. I did. Mason and Kyle were there, and they asked me if their dad really wrote the message. I assured them that he did, and reiterated that neither I nor his new therapist wrote a single word of the apology. It was all him. They admitted it felt good to know that he did care, but they needed time. This was also when we talked about Sean. A week went by with no response to my husband's text, then another. He was heartbroken. He broke down in our bedroom one night and just cried, saying he'd ruined his relationship with his sons and they were never going to forgive him. I reassured him that wasn't the case, but it was hard for him to accept. I told him he needs to keep talking to his therapist and focus on himself. His relationship with Sean changed as well. Even though he was the only son we had in our home, he started to spend less time with him, and Sean was completely fine with this. His therapist helped him realize that he was the one always initiating hangout time with Sean. He'd go to his room and ask Sean if he wanted to do something, or he'd tell Sean to go with him when he went to go pick up dinner or run errands. 5 days ago, Kyle finally texted my husband asking if they could talk. My husband said absolutely and asked where Kyle wanted him to go. Kyle said he and Mason wanted to come to the house. My husband, true to his word, called his boss and said he needed the rest of the day off for a family emergency. I dropped Sean off at my mother's house so the boys could talk openly to my husband without worrying about hurting Sean's feelings, and they came over and we all talked in the living room. It wasn't easy. We all cried, but my husband did everything right. I repeat, he did everything right. He apologized, he didn't deny his favoritism, he told the boys about his work with his therapist and how it was helping. He said he's learned he justified his favoritism by telling himself that he and Sean were just closer, but he now realized they were only closer because he was putting the majority of his time and effort towards Sean instead of all 3 of the boys. My husband asked for one chance to show them he has and will continue to change and treat them equally. Kyle accepted his apology. Mason said he wants to, but he feels like it's too late for he and my husband, as he's already out of the house. My husband told Mason that he is Mason's father for life, and asked him again for just a single chance. Mason agreed that he doesn't want to not have his dad in his life, but that he doesn't want to feel that pain again if he lets him in. He asked the boys what specifically they needed from him besides him making improvements in how he communicates with them. Mason said he doesn't want it to feel forced. He wants it to be genuine. Kyle wanted a hug. My husband hugged him and cried and swore that whenever he has an event, he will put multiple alarms on his phone the second he's told about it. My husband suggested family counselling. The boys are reluctant but did agree to go, as we all want our family to heal and grow stronger. Kyle moved back in the house and said he's happy because his bed is much more comfortable than Mason's couch. We decided Saturdays will be a family day that we all spend together. My husband has said he will reach out to the boys to see if they're free to get lunch. Not much else we can do until COVID is gone. He started playing video games with the boys just as something to do to spend time with them. He gets on the mic and talks to Mason, which he says feels good to talk to him, even though they're mostly just talking about stuff going on in the video game. He plans on buying Kyle the PS5 he wanted from the school event, but his therapist suggested he wait until their relationship is healed so he knows it's a genuine gift and not an apology gift. I agree with this. And that's where we're at. My husband and I have been recommended a few family counsellors from his therapist and are in the process of talking to them. He's really taking point on this. He's going to continue seeing his own therapist, as he said it's helped in more than just this incident. I admit that I still have some fears that his new attitude won't last, but this is so much more effort than he's ever put in when I mentioned his favoritism before. I'm really hopeful that this is only the beginning. The boys are already much happier, and seeing all the men in my life talking and laughing together just melts my heart. This is what I wanted all these years, and I'm hopeful that with family counselling and my husband continuing his own therapy, this can be a lifelong change. Edit. Oh wow, I was not expecting this to blow up, especially when my first post didn't get much traction at the time. I'm assuming it will be locked soon, so I want to say thank you to everyone for the kind words. I know this is not an instant fix and it will take much longer and continued dedication and effort from my husband for us to truly heal as a family, but we are committed to therapy as it's worked at opening the door for healing. I've made it clear to him that if he reverts to his old ways and hurts our kids again, I will be gone. I can't imagine how hard it must have been for them to let him back in after just a few weeks of no contact, and I'll not stand by if it happens again. That being said, as of now I have no reason to believe he is not dedicated to this change, and for the sake of my family, I will give him the same single chance my children have given him. It's up to him to use it wisely. Thank you again, and wish me luck. Alrighty guys, and that's the end of that story. All in all, about as good of an ending as you'd hope from something like that. I mean, I really want to believe the husband wouldn't go back to the favoritism ways. Like, this would have been a huge scare for him, and hopefully that's made him see the error of his ways. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below. Perhaps you have a similar anecdote you'd like to share. Either way, let me know. Am I the a-hole for rejecting my colleague's request to make her lunch? I have a habit of making my own meals to work, simply because I love cooking and health-related issues. So I just started a new job in a new company 3 months ago, and seeing me making my own lunch every day has gotten some attention from some colleagues. With that, I was able to talk and mingle in a new environment. My colleagues tend to ask things like recipes, how long did I take to make it, so and so, just small talk questions. Everyone was okay, except for this one girl from the same department from me, which I'll name her as Sally, 27, female, a junior designer. From the first day she saw my lunch, Sally has thrown in a lot of comments like how envious she is that I could cook my own meals, etc. It was fine until after 1 week later, she started asking me questions like, "So, when will you make me lunch?" I was taken aback, but I thought she was joking and waved it off with a smile and a nod. After that, at least once a week, Sally would ask me the same question again, and sometimes she'd even say things like, "You still owe me a lunch made by you," or she'll whine about me not wanting to cook for her. I've kindly turned her down every time she brings up about this issue. Last Monday, she offered to pay me if I'd make her lunch, for $3. I told her no again, and she was visibly upset. She told me it's not that hard to make her lunch since I'm already cooking for myself every day, single, and I'm being unsociable and unfriendly by not making her food. Since then, she's been passive-aggressive towards me, as well as not willing to cooperate at work when I hand her new tasks. It has made me feel bad about it, and I have no idea how to go about this. Should I have just made her lunch just to keep the peace? This feels horrible, and I don't know how to deal with it. Honestly, to me, she just sounds lazy. Like, seriously, make your own lunch. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. She's acting extremely entitled and is now harassing you and ignoring the work you're doing and not cooperating with you. You need to go to HR like yesterday. She's interrupting the flow of work just because you won't cook for her. $3 doesn't even cover food costs, much less your labour and time. And even then, even if she paid full price, you shouldn't have to because she's jealous. HR, yesterday. Once you do this once, she'll never let up about it and desire it every day. Not the a-hole. The actual gall and entitlement from Sally. Does she think money grows on trees for you? She can make her own lunch, like an adult. Not the a-hole. Sally is completely delusional. What's stopping her from learning to make her own lunch? She's 27, not 7. Please don't start making any food for her, as she'll keep this up for as long as both of you are at the same workplace. This needs to go to HR as it's impacting your work. Okay, on to an update. Not sure how I post an update, so I'll just write it out on my own profile. First off, I would like to clarify some details I left out in my previous post. You can skip this if you don't really bother with the deets. For those who said Sally is flirting with me, I am 26, female, and Sally is anti-LGBTQ, so I think flirting is highly impossible. For those who asked about my job, I work in a design agency as a senior designer. Sally is my work junior. I work closely with the juniors as I oversee their work. Also, I'm actually from Southeast Asia. I used USD in my previous post because Sally legit told me $3 USD is 4 times more than our currency. Somehow she believes it sounds nicer. So after reading most of your comments, I gave it a long thought about how I want to approach this issue. With that, I decided to not make lunch today and bring Sally out for lunch as to confront her about this whole lunch thing privately. I offered to pay for her lunch on the condition I picked the venue, and she was quick to agree, and her attitude went back to how it was before I declined her request, which I find weird, but yeah. I was first relieved that, at the least, I could talk to her about things and hope I can iron this out on my own. That 40 minutes of my life felt like hell. I brought up the issue of me not being comfortable with her recent attitude and her requests after we'd ordered our food. The whole time I was talking to her, she either zones out or just retorts with, "Why?" or "Why not?" Here's a little snippet of how our conversation went. Me: Sally, your constant pestering about how I should make you lunch is making me uncomfortable. I'd appreciate if you stopped that. Sally: Why? Me: I mean, like, I don't cook for anyone other than myself. Sally: Why? Me: Because, Sally, I'm your colleague, not your boyfriend or mum or family. Sally: But I don't see why you couldn't make me lunch just once. I'll pay you double this time. It felt like the conversation was going nowhere. The rest of lunch was filled with awkward silence. Sally would just sit there and stare at me without saying anything, and I'm not sure if it's just her zoning out, or she's somewhat ticked at me. She didn't even apologise, not once. The whole thing made my stomach feel weird, like something is grabbing my guts and twisting them around. The tension between us was awkward, even the whole way we walked back to the office. Another senior designer, Mark, took notice and he pulled me away to talk about work. Sally gave me one more look and walked to her seat. Mind you, up until this point, I've never talked to anyone in the company about Sally and the things she'd told me. I was brought into a breakout room. Mark went straight to the point. Did Sally ask you for something ridiculous or weird? Turns out, some people in the office were unhappy with Sally and her little antics. She once pestered a colleague into buying her souvenirs, as this colleague does a lot of work travelling. In meetings, she would zone out when people are talking to her, and she would always shift the weight to someone else. Example: "Well, we have X, so there's nothing to worry about." Also, a few times she'd take bits of food off guys' plates like fries and would giggle if anyone tries to tell her off. If the giggling doesn't work, she would retort the same whys and why nots I got during my talk with her. Mark suggests I should make arrangements with my supervisor to talk about it. They've all done it earlier this year, and that stopped her from doing what she did to them. Well, most of them. She still zones out in meetings or mid-conversation. I thanked Mark for his suggestion and decided it was a necessary next step. I've told my reporting manager about the gist of things, and I'll be having a meeting with him tomorrow to give him more in-depth details. Somehow it's assuring to see he actually had to massage his forehead, followed by a long sigh when I mentioned Sally's name. I hope things will get better after this. P.S. As I was typing this, I couldn't help but think back on some of Sally's behaviour towards me throughout these 3 months, and at most times it is weird, and I don't know what to make of them. Maybe I'll make a separate post about it if anyone is invested. Alright, straight to another update. Not sure if anyone considers this an update, but I just want to write this out. I've talked about the whole Sally thing with my friends over Discord last night while we were playing games. Apparently some of my friends attended the same art school as Sally, and were at one point sharing the same few classes. This is quite a famous art school in my country. If you tell people you're a designer, people's first guess would be you've studied there. From what I've gathered from my friends, in short, they describe Sally as a person with bad social skills but is naturally gifted in design. She doesn't talk much, but whenever she decides she wants to be friends with you, she could only spout questions that are uncomfortable to most people. In one instance, Sally asked a classmate why did her parents get a divorce. With such, they've concluded she had bad social skills, but they've never seen her reacting negatively when people don't respond to her. They were shocked when I told them that she was being uncooperative at work. Also, according to them, Sally behaves in a way that suggests her parents shield her from the world a lot. She's unaware of many things that's deemed common sense for most. She once became paranoid because she learned about scams in college and believed by picking up one phone call from a stranger would land her in a lifetime of debt. She's also very insecure about many things, example her looks, her weight, relationships, etc. At the end of the day, they didn't know much about Sally personally because back then they thought she was nosy by always asking people very personal questions. However, Sally does have a few friends in college. With this in mind, I recall how Sally asked me weird questions such as my salary, as well as me joining the company as a senior despite her having more work experience than me, as well as trying to dump her relationship problems on me. Maybe it's her attempt in trying to be friends with me? Now that I think about it, she needs some sort of professional help more than discipline for her actions. One commenter says, "She definitely has some social issues and probably needs therapy, but her behaviour goes beyond just not understanding social cues. She may be neurodivergent. I'm neurodivergent myself, and her parents protecting her has stunted her development greatly, but that's not an excuse for breaking boundaries continuously and only stopping when a higher up is brought in. She must be an amazing designer to still have a job after all these things she's done, and how she just doesn't seem to contribute to the team. She sounds like a nightmare to deal with, honestly." Opie replies, "Yes, she does do good work, and I do realise her behaviour is not something you'd see every day. I've suggested to my supervisor that if it's possible for the company to kind of talk to her into getting professional help, since we do have this benefit called mental health claims. Nonetheless, I do hope for the best for Sally. Unfortunately, I have no means nor the capability to help her." Okay, now for the final update. Hello everyone, this will be the final update. Took me a little while to write this post because I was busy at work. First of all, I'd like to thank you internet strangers for all the advice and similar experiences. It helped me a lot with navigating this situation as a whole. However, I'm still baffled by such behaviours, especially in a work environment where I was taught people are professional there. Anyways, on to the main topic. I had my meeting about the issue I had with Sally first thing in the morning. I told my manager that the main problem is work, about how uncooperative she was with me. It didn't take long for him to link this whole thing back to Sally making unreasonable requests for colleagues again. He didn't exactly tell me what the company would do at the time, but mentioned that the company would take appropriate measures in regards to this. Soon enough, an email was sent to Sally with all the senior designers CC'd in. In short, Sally will be put into probation as well as having a 30% pay cut, and she's been assigned to a more stern and experienced senior designer. I heard she's really scary, for work evaluation. Sally only gets one more chance to keep her job. One more of those requests from her after this would result in termination. Sally started kicking and crying upon reading the email as she yelled, "It's not fair," repeatedly. Everyone looked at Sally briefly, and went back to their own business. I saw some colleagues put on their earphones and raise the volume. Some put on earplugs, and the ones sitting near her would just walk away with their laptops. No one consoled her. Everyone just pretended she wasn't there. It felt as if I was watching a movie at this rate. Still a little worried that Sally will do something to me, I asked Mark if he could sit with me during lunch in case Sally tries anything. I'm not sure if Mark meant it as a joke or what, but he said, "No worries, she's not smart enough to link this back to you." Lunch since that day has never been so peaceful, and I'm looking forward to more peaceful lunches as long as I'm with this company. Okay folks, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, funny that she complained. I mean, she's lucky she still has a job. But yeah, 30% cut, probation, yeah, that's pretty rough. But a good outcome as far as they go, for everyone. What do you guys think about this? Let me know down below. Anyway, let's go to the next story. Okay, jumping over to relationship advice, this one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "Ex-fiance of 8+ years broke up with me via text message 3 years ago and disappeared. Now he's trying to rejoin our circle of mutual friends, and I'm struggling with it extremely hard." Me and a girl who I'll just call Jessica were a couple for 8+ years and engaged for 3 of them. I met her through a mutual friend in my group of friends. We ended up hitting it off pretty quickly as our dorky and nerdy hobbies aligned really well. I personally fully expected to marry this person and spend the rest of my life with her. In early 2016, her job offered her an amazing opportunity to temporarily work 4 months in the company's satellite office in New Zealand. She was an environmental engineer, to temporarily manage and lead a new team. It was very sudden and I was not really happy with the idea, but she really wanted this chance and opportunity, so off she went. I flew out to visit her after 2 months. Only when I arrived at the airport I got a text message from her. The message was short and more or less consisted of, she was sorry, but after thinking it through, she thinks it would be best if we went our separate ways from now on. She then completely blocked me on almost every single form of social media, cell phone, etc. I was confused, devastated, and became an absolute wreck. I remember completely breaking down in Auckland Airport. I spent the next 4 days living at a motel, basically trying to get in contact with her in any shape or form. She had apparently blocked every one of our circle of friends. Even her close friends from our circle of friends were shocked, confused, and basically lost. Even her parents were extremely confused when I called them. Her dad, who I was extremely close with, we coached Pee-wee hockey together and played a lot of beer league for hockey together, refused to believe it at first. I was a mess for a solid year, but my close circle of friends managed to drag me out of my hellish hole along with some therapy. Her best friends became close friends to me. About a year ago, she invited some of her old close friends to her wedding, among a bunch of other people from our group. No one went, and I quickly found out, which hurt me even more. Over a year ago, I started dating one of her old friends, as me and her had gotten close over the last 2 years or so. She felt quite hurt when Jessica basically ghosted her. Unfortunately, there was some awkwardness because she fully knew I was not fully over my ex, but she's been a supportive and amazing person, and I am extremely happy with her. Life was going great for me. Then, in December, Jessica apparently moved back home after divorcing a few months after getting married. I don't know much and I don't want to know. However, she's making this hugely concentrated effort to reconnect with people in our friend group, which is resulting in some very conflicted feelings for some people. Last week I found out that Jessica and some of my friends have started playing D&D via Roll20, which frankly made me feel crap. Part of me just wants to move on from this, but I'm struggling hard. While my significant other has been extremely supportive, I just feel numb and don't really know what to do. Today, Jessica sent me a long Facebook message basically apologizing to me for what she did and asked to be friends. I didn't respond and blocked her. I told my SO and I just felt like I was going to break down. Right now, my significant other is saying she's worried about me and keeps asking me what do I want to do. She confessed that Jessica had sent her a similar message a few weeks ago and she told her off. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't order my friends to not be friends with her. I just feel like a mess and I'm struggling with this as I feel like I'm a teenager dealing with stupid drama again. I'd probably tell her to jog on, to be honest. What would you guys do? Let's go to the comments. First and foremost, you should tell your new significant other that you appreciate her support and that you're dedicated to being with her and you're not in any way interested in or have feelings for your ex. I know she probably knows this, but I suspect it would help her to hear it. Then I would have a heart-to-heart conversation with your friend group and remind them how badly she hurt you and them those few years ago. I would tell them that you're not comfortable letting her back into the circle of friends and hope that they would recognize that and be understanding. And finally, I'd probably reply to the ex and tell her that you're not able to forgive her and ask her not to contact you again. Remember, the best victory over a trashy ex is to move on and make good for yourself. You're a person with a happy, successful relationship, and she is the failure coming home with her tail between her legs. Don't forget that. 1. Your significant other is the real deal. Don't let her get away if you can help it. Make sure you're totally open with how you're feeling and tell her that you appreciate her efforts so she knows she's doing something right. 2. Your ex is a self-absorbed snake who screwed you over and ghosted all her friends to do so. If any of your friends side with her about this, then they're not worth it. You can call up your closest friends and lay out your boundaries. You have no interest in rekindling friendship with this woman. You don't want to hear about her life in passing. You don't want to be at any group hangout where she is coming, give you a heads up so you can bail, and you'll need to distance yourself from any mutual friends who become close with her because she's caused you a lot of pain. Honestly, if after this chat any of your friends choose her, then you know they're not your friend. You can distance and eventually sever the friendships because of disloyalty. Yeah, hard to disagree there. Let's go to the update. Thank you all for your wonderful support. Anyways, I've tried my best to follow everyone's advice. I sat down with my significant other and explained to her how awesome she is, and explained how I don't have any romantic feelings for my ex at all. All I really have is a lot of painful and hurtful memories. I also asked her what should I do, and she suggested I respond and tell her off, to get closure of some degree. So I did that. I told her I don't want to be friends anymore, I want nothing to do with her, I explained how badly she hurt me, and I'm happy right now and I just want her to leave me and my friends alone. She took it well, apologized one more time, and then basically said goodbye forever. That was honestly a huge load off my shoulders. I then went and told our group of friends and explained how much she hurt me and how I would rather we not start adding her to our gaming sessions, etc. Unfortunately, I ended up losing a bunch of friends and have irreparably caused a lot of damage to our friend group. Many of them sided with me, but a bunch of them took the stance of, "You have no right to tell me who I can be friends with," among other complaints. A few people were very angry and told me I'm being a terrible person as my ex is trying to repent and deal with the pain of her divorce. It was confusing and frankly just made everything more of a mess. In the end, a bunch of us ended up getting booted out of our FF14 free company, which then my significant other ended up kicking out a bunch of people from our Discord. I don't really know what is going to happen, but it really hurt to see some people I've known for years and even helped me get through it the first time suddenly take her side. Yeah, it's almost inevitable collateral with this situation. It is a shame though. Anyway, that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.